We
So,
miss you, chat. We
now
love
the
you.
we'll still see the chat, but all right. Here's the thing. I played two legacy tournaments this past weekend. To varying amounts of success. You know, I'm sure you've had a lot of weekends like that in your life as well.
Yeah, I saw. So you played lands at the Legacy Pit. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what they were calling that tournament, but it was at the Legacy Pit, so we'll go with that. Um, I
Yeah.
saw your list of matchups, beginning with round one Doomsday, which as soon as you see that, you know that it's
Yeah.
probably not your day.
I actually won game one, but let me see if I can pull up the melee tab real quick, because that is one really nice thing about those tournaments, that they just literally have like a complete record of it. It was not open deck list, even though it was run through melee. So
Interesting.
it's fine. Like, I think they were just using it for standings or whatever.
But couldn't you just go to the page and find your opponent and
Uh, so it was hidden.
okay, okay.
So all of this stuff was published afterwards, which is fine. I think that's actually a really nice way of doing it.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about I guess we can talk about how the pit deck list was different from this one real quick. In the showcase, I had an extra Saga and Red Elemental Blast, where I had a Choke and a Retrofitter Foundry before. Uh, Dave and I talked about it a little bit. We kind of never really wanted to find the Foundry, which is a good reason to probably cut it from your deck if you just like don't even care about finding it. Like, there are games where it'll win that no other card will, but I'm not sure it wins more games than a fourth Urza Saga would on average.
Yeah, I think Saga has just consistently overperformed for me, and I would just absolutely want four copies in the deck.
Yep.
Not sure what other sacrifices you have to make to accommodate that, but whatever they are, I think they are probably worth it.
Yeah, and we just decided to play the fourth rep because the realization I had was choke is not even good versus the low land like blue red style decks, because Ragavan lets them escape choke fairly
Yeah,
easily. So I'm just off it. And in my opinion, the primary way you lose that matchup is if they have a big Murktide Regent, and
yes.
the best way to beat a big Murktide Regent is to just kill it, I think.
Yeah, that's why it's worth looking at the three copies of Mazavith in this main deck as well,
Yeah.
which some lists in the past, that number would go up and down, but I think three copies at the moment is absolutely right, even though it's one of the more polarizing lands
Mm-hmm.
in that some matchups it does literally nothing or close to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Against Delver, you really need to draw several copies of that card, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think so many games come down to you have one maze holding off a Murktide region or
Mm-hmm.
something, and then as soon as they find Wasteland, they're going to be able to get in for a lethal attack. And so setting up an early like maze with
Mm-hmm.
stage to copy maze and so on, or just having several mazes so
Mm-hmm.
that like you're always fogging one thing, and then if one maze gets wasted, then you can set up a loam or something for the other one. Like I think that's just an important thing to have access to.
Yeah, so I just want to give a quick rundown of what happened in this tournament. So round one, I win the die roll, and I actually make a turn two Lage, and my opponent concedes after playing Underground Sea Ponder. So my question to you is, what deck do you put them on?
Hold on, run down that again.
I just make a turn two Lage after they went turn one Ponder, and they just concede off of Underground Sea.
So natural underground sea, they didn't
Yeah.
fetch for it.
Yep.
I think given that like it's more likely to be a deck that's going to naturally have several copies of Underground Sea, right?
Yep.
And so I think Doomsday has to skyrocket to the top of the list there. I guess maybe despite Matt Vuk and his clout or whatever, I don't think the Grixis versions of the Ragavan decks have really picked
Mm-hmm.
up that much. And outside of that, I guess it could maybe be like a Storm deck or something where they just drew their 1C or whatever. But yeah, by and large, I'm assuming it's combo of some kind, and that maybe Hogak. Like I'm seeing that deck on the list here, but no, of course not. Ponder. What am I saying?
Yeah. I.
Yeah, C into Ponder can only be a combo deck, which I guess is good news that you won game one because the other two games are going to be a battle. But
Yeah. I'm gonna just take a quick. Oh wait. Not letting me take a step. Okay. So yeah, I assumed Doomsday actually, even though I kind of thought it wouldn't be very popular in paper either, which is kind of, weird, right? Um, so I had my endurances and rebs in. I would just have those in most likely versus an underground sea ponder start anyways. But I didn't side in Sphere because I don't even really like Sphere that much on the draw versus Doomsday for a bunch of reasons.
Yeah, I don't know if you got this vibe from your opponent. My experience is people don't really switch to Doomsday. They either play Doomsday and that's one of the main decks they're
Mm-hmm.
practiced in, or they just play something else. And that I think you can make the case that Doomsday tends to be bad versus Delver to the point where it's kind of unsalvageable,
Right.
versus pretty, the best win percentage in the format against most other things. And so, in theory, there's a kind of calculation of if you expect
Mm-hmm.
less than X% Delver in the room, the best deck to play automatically becomes Doomsday. In
Yep.
practice, I don't think anyone actually goes through that calculation. I think if you're showing up to a Legacy tournament with Doomsday, it's because you think it's a great deck, you own it, you think it's a fun deck, and you whatever, right? So I don't know if your opponent is a secret Doomsday master and this is just their offline persona or whatever. But
I had not encountered this person before, and nothing gave me the vibe that they were particularly like Doomsday esque, But
what does that even mean?
I don't know, but they're just some people I get combo vibes from. I didn't get a super combo vibe, but I did agree from a Bayesian perspective that they go Sea Ponder. That probably means they have more copies of Underground Sea in their deck than like a Storm deck. So I did board my Rebs and Endurance, but I'm probably just gonna board my Rebs versus Underground Sea no matter what. And Endurance is more questionable, but I had the feeling it was Doomsday. The other two games are not that interesting. Game two, I just like get killed on turn two because that's how the matchup goes. In game three, I mulligan to a hand that has a turn two sphere, but my opponent just kills me on turn one. So it's
Jesus.
really okay. I'll walk you through the exact sequence. It was C Ritual Doomsday, a good start. They make some pile, and then they cast okay, I believe it was Pedal, uh, crack a cycler, or no, it was cycle once, play a lead, um, put another cycler in the stack in response, crack for 3 blue, cast Ideas Unbound, kill me with Thassa's Oracle.
Sure.
But apparently they had put Pact of Negation in the bottom of the pile to defend against Endurance, whereas if I just reb the Ideas Unbound, I think they kind of just lose. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know if they could have gotten around that, but I kind of do agree that they should just go in on turn one because that hand's like much worse for a sphere of resistance.
Yeah, and also like let's say they have to they cantrip on one, expose a C, and then you waste it or something. There are just
Yeah,
so many
exactly.
ways the things can go
Mm-hmm.
badly, and it feels like the game going longer tends to favor you on average.
Yep.
And if the concern is uh, Red Blast, then did you have it up on that turn one or no?
I went fetch go,
Okay.
but I went to
Yeah.
six. And also, I think it's kind of weird. If I mold a six, wouldn't you rather play around a blast than endurance if you could? I don't know if there's a
Uh,
pile you can do that. I mean, I think maybe the problem is they don't have access to enough cards to be able to play around that.
maybe, yeah. I'm trying to think. You could do something like did they have the consider pile available to them?
No, consider was not legal that weekend
Oh,
yet.
of course.
Yeah,
Huh.
it's that's one of the weird dichotomies between MTGO and IRL. There's a 1 week delay still. MTGO is just like, yeah, it's there. We're not going to check legality because it's already programmed in. Go nuts.
Yeah, I'm so used to paper play just not existing that
Yep,
gap had not occurred to me in so long. But
yep.
I'm more used to it in terms of like this is when the arena release is and the moto
Oh,
release and the first day it's
right.
just impossible to get cards or whatever. But
But
the actual
yeah.
paper ban list gap had never. That's interesting. I think that's the only real impact from the set for Legacy, right?
I that is what I looked at. I don't know. Like obviously there's some fringe card maybe, but I think consider is I talked to a bunch of Doomsday players. They're like pretty excited to try like 2 copies of this card. because I think it thins out some piles that basically speed you up a lot more. Because when you only have to pay 1 mana to get through 2 cards, it's actually pretty powerful.
Well, so in theory, you could do that before with Mental Note or Thought Scour, but the crucial difference
Yeah.
here is that that actually mills one too many cards for the pile
Yep.
you want, which is
Deep analysis LED.
yeah, you
Yep.
consider over deep analysis, you draw LED, you play LED, you crack it for blue, you flashback deep analysis, you have 1 mana left floating, and the 2 cards that you draw, the last 2 cards in your deck, which is why that matters, is let's say
Cavern.
Lotus Petal or Cavern and then Thassa's Oracle.
Yep.
So I think that is a big upgrade for the deck. It allows you to go off in a lot of situations with just 1 mana, which is often a pretty big choke point. So yeah, I think that is big upgrade for the deck. Doesn't really change the fundamentals too much. Like there's no matchup which wasn't favored before, but which now is favored or whatever because of that. But it's just, general improvement across the board.
Yep. Definitely agree with you. But so losing to Doomsday, that doesn't really bother me. I think that's like one of the matchups that I expect to lose on average, and you gotta just carry on. Now round two, I had forgotten how much information people leak. This person, my opponent, very friendly person named Erin, she shuffled her deck, but during shuffling, I saw the following cards: Liliana the Veil, Sudden Edict, and Smallpox.
Huh.
So okay, let me tell you something about lands versus most Smallpox decks. The matchup is extremely good if you do not get Graveyard Hated out, and the way you lose in game one is to just keeping like some hand that has not enough resources and just getting like him a bunch of time. But
or you shove on depth and get sudden edicted, which
oh,
yeah.
So I'll give you a hint. Because I saw a sudden edict, I decided I was just never going to shove unless I could keep her off of 2 mana, and that is exactly what happened in game one. At the end of the game, she just shows me 2 sudden edicts. I'm like, yeah, you leaked a lot of information because you kept attacking your factory into my stage depths with 2 mana up, and I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to activate here. I'm going to wait until I can set up a better scenario.
I have to imagine Urza Saga is pretty messed up
Oh
against that deck
yeah,
as well.
yeah. She was also playing the card, and in fact, on turn one, she led with
Huh?
Nihil Spellbomb, but I had
Okay.
Pithing Needle, so my needle named Spellbomb because like Loam is so important in that matchup because they're resource denial deck.
Yeah, that is a nice upgrade for that deck too, I think.
Yep,
I don't
yep.
know exactly what else was in the list, but yeah, that sounds smart.
I've seen a bunch of pop lists on MTGO that try to do that with Dark Ritual and also Karn the Great Creator pretty often. I mean, honestly, like if your deck can conceivably play Urza Saga, it's probably correct to do so. You know, and not going to say much more about this matchup. It's really good for me. Like we're playing a mirror, but my deck ramps a lot harder and it has more engine cards. And I also am just a much better loam deck, I think generally speaking as well, because of exploration and Valkyd exploration. So I kind of trashed that opponent, and I would expect that to happen like 90% of the time or some ridiculously high number.
And then we move on to the first of two
Uh,
matchups against Mono Red
all
Painter.
right.
Jeez.
So I was just like, why is there? Okay, I also do not like this matchup in game one for lands, and in fact, I get like pretty easily killed. So the problem with this matchup, I think, especially in game one, is they first off often play Blood Moon. They also have a pretty quick combo kill that they can spread the mana out usage over several turns. Like you can just go turn one Grindstone, turn two Servant, turn three like Soul Land activate, even if I Wasteland. You know, so I don't really love that. And indeed, in game one, I think I just get killed. Game two, I think I draw a Force of Vigor, and that's enough to slam the door. That card's obviously insane in the matchup. And one question for you: do you like siding in Red Blasts versus Mono Red Painter?
Huh. That's a really interesting question. So I'm thinking, would I have enough just useless lands like Mazavith or whatever that I'd want to board out anyway? I think the answer is probably yes.
Yeah.
Actually, although I guess endurance can buy you a turn sometimes as well, or if they're trying to do Goblin Welder, Goblin Engineer stuff,
Yep.
then it could mess that up as well. So, uh, God, that's interesting. I actually think I do like the blast. Yeah.
I I also so my stance on this is I try to determine what level my opponent was on. and this person seemed competent enough that I predicted that they would not name blue with their painter, so I just didn't bother. It really is sort of a judgment thing, I think. If you think they're going to name blue every time, then you should have blast in, I think, 100%.
Yeah, I think sometimes their hand dictates that for them. So if they
Yep.
have at least one blast in their hand, then they're kind of priced into naming blue. So
Yep.
um, if that's not in play, then it usually is pretty much better just to name any other color. And
Mm-hmm.
a heads up painter player will know that. But
Yep.
I think most of the time, because they have to name blue, then the red blast just is going to be good most of the time.
Yeah, so I didn't board it. In game 3, they thought for a long time on 7 cards, went like Great Furnace Petal Go, and then just never played another land. So I like easily won. I'm just like, was I close to dead? I was trying to figure it out, and I'm just like, this is not worth thinking too much about. So kind of funny. So the next round, Damir Death Shadow. I'll give you a spoiler. In the middle of game 2, it's not actually Damir. It was actually Sultai, and I'll tell you what happens. But in general, Death Shadow. Have you read the card Grove of the Burn Willows?
Oh God.
It's so you remember the KCI days where it was just actually correct to just give your opponent life blind, and I was actually really scared because in game 1 my opponent went like Delta C Ponder. I'm just like, oh god, not another Doomsday opponent. Then turn 2 was Watergrave. I'm like, still could be Doomsday, but more likely to be Shadow. And in fact, I basically stabilize at 5 life behind 2 Maze of Ith versus a Gromag Angler, and their deck can't really beat double Maze of Ith either. So, I think I eventually like kill them with an Urza Saga or something. Like the way you actually kill them by that point doesn't really matter, you know. So that's how it is. And game 2 is an interesting one. So first off, my opponent mulligans. Then on their mulligan, they accidentally draw 8 cards. And I don't actually know what the fix for that is.
Huh. If
Yeah.
I ever did know the fix, I probably don't now because it's been 18 months. I don't know if policy has changed in that time. I'm pretty sure they just go to 6, right? Or hold on, this was on their 6 they drew 8,
yeah.
right?
So, but the person didn't actually look at their card, so the fix would just like shuffle a random card back into the deck.
Yeah.
So, which is totally fine, Or actually, sorry, no, it was slightly different. They drew their 7, then they knocked over their top card and it was a brainstorm, and it was just a dexterity warning. So, Paper Magic is different from MTGO in that like none of this stuff can happen. But also, like, fortunately for them, showing me a brainstorm gave me absolutely no information because that card's always going to be in their deck.
Yeah.
So they go to 6. They like reluctantly keep, and this is the game where I'm like really far ahead. I'll get to the punchline, which is okay. My opponent has a Water Grave and a Wasteland, and I'm trying to imagine ways I can lose because I have like 6 lands out. They have the 2 no threat. So I decide the most likely way I'm going to lose the game is if I somehow get green screwed over a lot of course of turns. I map for Yavimaya and play it. And on their turn, they tap over their lands. They play Witherbloom Apprentice. And I'm just like, what the fuck have I done? I'm like, so it's a Shadow deck that has Witherbloom Apprentice in it? And I kind of shot myself in the foot because now I feel like I'm going to lose to that. I don't draw a Wasteland for the Watery Grave. So on their next turn, they cast Chain of Smog and I die.
That's amazing.
And I'm just like, I could have avoided this so easily if I just, tried to imagine if they
literally
were like,
any other land. Yeah.
Well, I also thought about it later, and I actually concluded I made a mistake. Why didn't I just fucking Wasteland their Watery Grave?
That too, yeah.
Yeah, there were so many ways to avoid this happening, but it's a funny story. And game 3, okay, also a paper play thing. I have a pretty strong hand. It's like Mox, Exploration, 3 lands loam. So that's like obviously close to the nuts, So I play all of those cards out and I loam. And they go EOT Surgical. And so they search my deck, take the 3 loams out, and I shuffle my deck, present them, cut. They say nothing about the loam in my graveyard. I'm not leading them anywhere. I'm like looking at them, and I just say go, and they draw their card, and they just like play a land, say go, and I'm like, on my turn, I'm like, draw step, and they look at my loam, they're like, oh shit. Did they realize that they were in the wrong as well? I don't know what would have happened. This was also their 5-card hand or something, so maybe they were tilted. So I easily crushed them with this loam that I really shouldn't have had access to.
Yeah, I don't know. Usually in those spots, I just move the card that's being targeted myself, and then present the deck to them. It's like I don't know. I'm not sure if there's like an ethical quandary there. But for me, it's just.
I think it's an ethical quandary if you try to trick them. I literally didn't do anything except just like present my deck to them. So
Sure. I mean, I don't think they should be physically obliged to like reach over and move the card from your graveyard.
Well, no, but I don't. In fact, I was trying to minimize like touching my opponent's cards and having them touch my cards because of how it happens. Like because of germs or whatever nowadays. Although like it's questionable that we're playing a big tournament and worrying about just touching cards where like I think touching is like not that likely to spread it, but obviously you want to be careful. So it's just kind of weird. And if my opponent had literally said like anything like get that loam or whatever or pointed to it, it would have been fine, But enough ethical questions aside, let's move to the next match. Blue Red Delver. I think I got worked over by Ragavan is pretty much what happened. And my opponent also, I think, surgicaled my Wasteland, I'm trying to remember, which is actually a lot more powerful than people think. Because I think one of the primary ways you beat them is like pummeling their mana and then getting Tabernacle out. But Ragavan was just unstoppable versus me, and I kind of just died to it. Oh, Surgical Tabernacle. That's what happened. And I needed Tabernacle to beat the Sweeper. That's what it was. So, it's kind of... There are a lot of situations where you need the Tabernacle to actually win versus like a developed board. And since I no longer had that out, I couldn't win.
That makes sense.
All right, round 6. This mono red painter match was even less close somehow. My opponent had turn 1 Ragavan, but they were at 5 cards. But they also went Great Furnace Ragavan, so I just blind needled Grindstone. Because there's so few decks that play Great Furnace. They hit me like once with the Ragavan, and then they like easily lost the game because that's how that matchup works. Round 7, I'm trying to remember. I think I lose game 1 to Ragavan again, and in the next 2 games I like just sort of stabilize. So I would not pick lands because I actually have a heavy bias against it now because I think it has like a lot of weaknesses to like combo and whatever. But I do think most of the blue-red X decks are excellent matchups, which is the primary reason to pick the deck,
That's interesting because I know a few months ago you were saying that you had some structural concerns about lands, but also...
Well, yeah, most of them were addressed by twofold. First off, the downtick in Force of Negation, because none of these blue-red decks want to draw Force of Negation in the mirrors in Game 1, right? So you kind of just get to have your cake in Game 1 with regards to Life from the Loam or Punching Fire. The other thing is, I think Urza Saga sort of sidesteps a lot of those concerns as well, if they're just trying to like counter all of your spells,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just a combination of those. So that person kind of got worked over. And round 8, Andrew Lopez. I don't know if you recognize this name.
It sounds like vaguely familiar.
I think they lost the finals of Grand Prix to Ben White's.
Okay. This was the Status Cunning.
Yes.
GP.
Yes.
Okay.
So I actually knew this person was skilled, and I also vaguely remembered that they played Death and Taxes. But the jig was up. They just showed me Yorion before game 1, so I'm just like, well, IRL, that's like 99% to be Death and Taxes, right?
Yeah.
So, I can't... I wish I had recorded this match, because I think this one was interesting. Game 1, I beat them with Stage plus Saga, essentially in a long game. So, and I think that's actually a pretty common way to beat them, because I do not want to make Merit Wage versus that deck, basically ever. Unless if like they expose themselves to it being soft. But even if they expose themselves, Solitude is a thing nowadays. So it's just like, I really don't want to do this if I can avoid it, It just does not work out on average. Game 3, we're like in a race and I have like 2 constructs. I have Crucible plus Saga. My opponent plays a Rip, and then the race gets close. then he manages to equip Batterskull to Flick Wisp while porting my maze every turn. A common play for Death and Taxes, but also a very good play that if I have exactly one maze, porting it every turn to force through damage is one of the ways I can lose that matchup, I think. So, that happens, and I think round 9 my opponent just goes to 5 cards twice and is never really in it. And that's lands IRL. Sometimes you are the Doomsday E, sometimes you're the Landser. So that's the quick rundown of that tournament. If you want to know, Gary Wong flew in from Phoenix and won the tournament over Yorion Alurin in the finals.
Love to see it.
Yeah.
I mean, would love to see Alurin winning more, but, you take what you can get.
This person was undefeated in the Swiss. Oh.
Let's take a look at the list there quickly.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I've looked at this list. Looks pretty well thought out. I don't know about Ukikama Skulking Shadow.
Yeah, so I think if you get deep in the weeds on Alurin, you end up in these debates over which obscure win condition you need to end your Cavern Harpy chain or whatever, and there's some reason why this is the preferred one, I think.
But so a key point is there are 4 Living Wish, and actually the Acererak is in the sideboard.
Yeah, so Acererak was the card that I think inspired renewed interest in Alurin.
Yep.
Where because that is just a clean 2-card combo, assuming no interaction, because you venture into the dungeon infinite times, and one of the modes on one of the dungeons is losing life.
For one, yeah.
On top of scrying, gaining life, drawing cards, you basically get to do it all. But that does get broken up by, Source of Plowshares is enough to break that up and so on. Whereas the extended combo here is immune to removal in that sense.
It is. I believe the way you're supposed to do it is with the Cavern Harpy gating on the stack, you're supposed to combo them. I don't remember. It's been way too long. If I played Alurin again, I would try to relearn it, but I typically just put it out of my mind until I have to relearn it. If that makes sense. Yeah.
So I think the basic chain is you recruit until you get to Arctic Merfolk. Merfolk picks up Recruiter.
Yep.
Recruiter then fetches Cavern Harpy. Harpy picks up Merfolk to repeat that process.
Yep.
So you can basically just dump a bunch of creatures into play as you're going through the motions here. So if there is, one more piece of interaction than you can play through, then you still have just a bunch of material left over again. And it is funny that Uro actually is a combo piece here, because that is a card which, once you have the Cavern Harpy, you play Uro, you Harpy back the Uro, and now you've gained 3 life and drawn a card, and the 3 life there outweighs the 1 life you paid for the Cavern Harpy. So you get to cycle through your deck, gain infinite life, make all your land drops, and then eventually just kill them the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, so I think this deck is reasonable. The Teferis, I think, are just a nod to blue-red, because I think without maximizing Teferi, Daze can be an issue for a deck looking to resolve 4-drop on average. I think Daze is kind of an issue for this deck, sort of period, because its curve is so high. There are 4 birds and 1 Noble Herrick, but you remember this is your own deck, so that's 5 out of 80 versus 4 out of 60. It's kind of similar numbers.
Yeah, I think Teferi as well is a nod to stuff like Bant and Jeskai Saga, which I think are going to be better matchups for you on average anyway, because they give you more time, and you can actually outgrind them sometimes thanks to Uro and Yorion and stuff, even without the combo. But I think it really cements that, and then as you say, you need all the help you can get really against Delver.
And note the 4 Carpet of Flowers in the sideboard. That's a lot, but obviously a fantastic card for a deck. You just want to if you get to generate all of your mana and use all of it per turn versus a blue-red deck, I think you very easily win. Yeah,
well, one thing I like about this is Living Wish for Endurance, where usually the issue with Living Wish is you're casting 2 mana to get the card, and then it's face up, and you usually cannot cast it on the same turn. Whereas Endurance, you can wish for Endurance, have that up, and you have more than enough redundant green cards usually to pitch for that. So I do like that aspect of the deck, just having access to that card in game 1.
I kind of wonder in that same vein if you're supposed to have a Solitude. The blue one's obviously not
Yes.
worth considering, I think, because that one's just like not that good on rate, and also like it being face up is like kind of not very good as well. So
Yeah, I think maybe you're meant to build the deck just with some endurances anyway, just as like a good fair
yeah,
card. Which I guess with Living Wish that constrains what you can do with the rest of your sideboard. So that's a little unfortunate. But I can't, okay, wait, you can Living Wish for the Yorion, right?
you can.
If you want the discount
I
there.
like I'm trying to fathom when that's actually correct. It seems so likely to be correct most of the time.
Well,
If that
I
makes
think
sense.
you have 2 mana. You need Force Up for next turn, but you don't have a blue card.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, that actually. No, even if you reveal it, it's still technically in your sideboard Z Church, man. Like, it always lives in your sideboard. You can always Living Wish for it, right?
Also note, I guess it does contribute to prismatic ending, but the one Bayou in the 80 card deck just for the one Plague Engineer and the one Acererak, which ideally you're never hardcasting in the first place,
There's
but
a
you know.
Leovold as well, right?
Oh, there is a Leovold, sure.
Well, like, Leovold, I think, is the bigger reason to play a Bayou, actually.
Yeah, that
And,
makes
well,
sense.
no, Leovold and Plague Engineer. The Acererak, I do not think you're really hard. Like, I can't. When?
The game is getting scrappy if it gets to that point.
I don't like it. I can't imagine that being correct. So I don't know. But yeah, Aloran. Honestly, this tournament, almost all of the decks were expected. Some person played the Moto Kanikan deck, I think. Yeah,
But this isn't Kanikan themselves.
no, Kanikan I
Okay,
believe is Japanese. So,
sure.
but this is a known Moto deck.
I love Kanikan, and they're just constant,
Yeah.
cycling through the color pie with Guy. Basically, anyone who still plays Guy I'm a massive stan of.
Yep, and one Lance did make top eight. I obviously wish it had been me. Uh, not. I think it's a pretty stock list. I don't really love. I know you hate Valkyrie Exploration even more than I do. Like it's kind of funny. You think it's how did you put it? Massively overrated.
It just doesn't do anything. Like it's just so bad against. I mean, basically everyone. Like you see 4 exploration or 4 Valkyrie exploration, 3 Urza
Mhm.
Saga, and my mind just melts. I don't get it.
Yeah, and I mean Sylvan Library makes it a little better. I don't know. I'll say a few things about this list in particular. I really think you should play 4 Dark Depths. You and I think,
Yes.
share this. How the fuck do you kill Doomsday in turn 2 if you don't play 4 Dark Depths? Like you just need to draw all of those cards naturally. Like Dark Depths is good in all of your bad matchups, is how I would put it. So you should maximize that.
Or even just like I think in a lot of matchups, or even in matchups where it's not normally the case, but just in a lot of game states, you are a dark depth combo deck basically, and
Yep.
you really want to be leaning into that.
I agree. And you know what you can do? In a lot of postboard games, you can shave down to 1. There's no problem with that if that plan's bad. Then, but you don't really lose much by playing all 4 in your main deck. Because there's not like a significant difference between playing 3 and 4 in regards to drawing a bad card in like one of those matchups, you know?
Yeah, Eli, have you tried killing them before turn 8? I hear that helps in terms of beating Valkyrie exploration.
Yeah. There's I actually side out Valakut Exploration versus most of the Dazed decks too, because I simply think a lot of the games where you tap out for 3 mana and then it gets Dazed, you actually lose those games more often.
Yeah.
So I actually don't leave it in versus most of the Dazed decks, unless I know they're trying to go really long versus me. But I think it's kind of, I don't know. I would only play 3, and you almost convinced me to cut 1, but I didn't. So, you know. Let's see. Anything else interesting from this tournament that we can go over? Oh, what the hell is this? I didn't actually look at this. Oh, this just is like 3 card. Oh, this is. I've seen this deck on Moto too.
Is this the Death, I think it's called?
DETH.
Yeah.
Yes. Depths something something something. I don't know. Depths blank tendrils helm, I believe.
Sure, let's go with that.
Yeah. Bomberman? Kind of cool. I mean, the real issue with this was Gyruda Bomberman, which is also a Kaneken deck. 2 people were playing Kaneken decks in this tournament. Holy moly!
I do like the 4 Ingenious Smith in this deck. That's kind of cool.
I do too. I think this card's actually really good in the deck. Well, when I saw someone play it, like they were saying beside me, I looked and they were revealing like an LED off of it. I'm like, that's really sweet. And I think this card's just like pretty good on rate. I mean, there's been talk about this card in Modern Hammer, whether you're supposed to play it or not. I think here it's definitely correct for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think it's actually a really good card in Legacy. It's just a question of finding the right shelf for it, and maybe this is it. I think that I do like that this deck doesn't have range reveals anymore. Like, I think that was
Right.
always a little ambitious, to say the least.
Mm-hmm. And this other person, I watched them play a little bit. They also played pretty well with the deck. I guess if you play lands and you've bought into this deck and you're like near the top of the standings, you're likely to know how your deck operates.
This is someone who I think has quite an extensive collection and is quite open about that fact. So yeah, I think has that choice of what to play, and if they have lands experience, then why not?
I'm gonna go on my rant about Field of the Dead. Field of the Dead is a bad Urza Saga. That's my rant. Like literally in the matchups where Field is good, I think Urza Saga is better, and Urza Saga is also a lot faster. Is the actual thing.
Yeah, there was a point when I think when Matt Vuk won an early challenge with Bant, where he had like Force of Vigor and Back to Basics and a bunch of other stuff, where Urza Saga itself wasn't that reliable. But if you think there's going to be a lot of very hateful blue decks, then the one copy maybe in the sideboard even might make some sense. But yeah, I think the card is just outmoded on average.
So someone was asking with regards to Bant having 2-3 dress down, the way that the lands versus Bant matchup plays out, all the games that you win, you just stage Saga and they can never win. Like that's like I want to build my own Field of the Dead that scales quadratically instead of just making a 2/2 every time.
Does it scale exponentially?
No, it's quadratic. I already fucking said that. It's the same as Packrat. You know that. So I knew where you were going. I was just not going to let you have it.
I'm not a professional mathematician, Jarvis.
Oh, also, there were a lot of draws in this tournament, including Koval himself, who stayed at my house. Koval's deck was really interesting, actually. So he said he was having issue finishing games sometimes with this deck, so he added a Field of the Dead and 2 Life from the Loam, as well as a Wasteland.
Yeah, I've been impressed when I've played against the like loam-centric band decks in the past, which you don't see very often these days. But
right.
I almost think that's a better approach than these Shark Typhoons, which I guess in the mirror or the pseudo mirror, like hardcasting that card is actually part of your plan, right?
I think part of it is you just want to cycle it and block sometimes as well. Like I mean, I think you and I have played a lot of Shark Typhoon. The fact that it's just like sometimes Gem Palm Incinerator is actually pretty nice.
How often in the mirrors do you think does it come down to looping your own endurances to never deck?
Brian told me that came up a lot from him when he was testing the deck, so I would just believe him. Like, I mean, I don't see a reason not to believe him about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can believe it for sure. Yeah, I think this is an interesting approach. I've seen people lean like even harder into the lands angle. Don't think you necessarily need to do that. No. It's just a nice tactic to have access to. But you see the second wasteland in the sideboard, and you could play more even. You know, if you expect a lot of lands, let's say, or a lot of mirrors, pseudo mirrors, then I think the lone wasteland stuff there is actually really good.
And one last comment. I found this really interesting. I've watched Milan play a lot IRL. MZ Blazer on MT Joe, who crushes all the MTU events. For some reason, I think he plays worse IRL, and I'm not really sure why. You can sort of see that. Like, 6-3 is still a fine record. That was the same record as me, but I think there might be like a mental block or something for him in playing IRL Magic. If that makes sense.
I think that's pretty often the case. And it often goes the other way too, right? Where paper grinders, they try Arena, they try Moto for the first time, and it takes a while to really get adjusted to it. So, especially as well, I imagine, I don't know if you experience this yourself, but I imagine just the level of play with people de-rusting after 18 months, maybe, if they've been responsible during the pandemic, then there will be a lot of not even just operations errors, right? With shuffling in your companion or what have you, but just people getting used to that whole experience again, where they're going to be playing a bit worse now than they would on average.
Yeah, so for me personally, I was fortunate enough to do a cube draft now and then with a small amount of people, which kept the operations aspect sort of fine. I felt like my reads were generally pretty good still of what my opponent was trying to do, like how I should approach the matchup. Sometimes you lose a few matches, but I generally was satisfied with all my operational things. I was not satisfied with how much space I had at the table.
Yeah.
And also the air conditioning aspect, but
Well,
yeah,
the space at the table is just a time-honored part of Magic tournaments. I don't think that's
yeah,
ever going away. The air conditioning stuff, it continues to anger me how little ventilation gets talked about in terms of
exactly, yeah,
setting up a safe tournament environment, or just a safe environment in general, right? Like I go to the pharmacy and they have a hand sanitizer there, and all these precautions that they're telling you to do, but their windows are bolted shut and they're not, and it's like, well, of all places, you should know, what you're doing here. But anyway, I
yeah,
think the paper reads thing goes both ways, where on the one hand, you have less practice of doing that over
mm-hmm.
the past however long, but also people are being so sloppy that they're giving more away. Like they're less used to actually,
Yep,
keeping it tight in that sense too. So
yep. So that aside, I think that's a good summary of the Sluggish Spit. I did have fun, obviously. Like, I still think Paper Magic is the best way to play it, but I don't think we're quite there yet to have like a recurring set of these. Unfortunately. But you know, uh, just be safe. I mean, obviously, I kind of broke the rule, but I was really hoping that they would switch to a vaccine mandate, but they didn't. I talked to the Flesh and Blood people. They said it's surprisingly hard to verify, like to have a good database. So that's why they didn't bother, if that makes sense.
yeah, it's going to be open to some amount of gaming the system or forgeries or whatever. I think the amount of work you actually have to go through to get that done is going to
Yeah,
dissuade enough bad actors that that it's still worth doing. And
sure.
I think it's still important to make a statement that like we believe in taking this seriously, and part of that is having this vaccine mandate in place, and that statement by itself, especially if
Mm-hmm.
you're a larger TO and what you do is going to set a precedent there. I think that is important to do, even if it's not like a perfect 100% hit rate.
Yep. 100% agree with you. I will have a quick shout out to one Jonathan Zhang. I'll pronounce the Chinese correctly. Resubbing, and Yo Soy Easy rather, also resubbing. We'll open just for you. And Will Polium has followed me. As you're about to discover, he defeated me round 2 of this event, but I think I played not great, but also game 1 I think I got unlucky a little bit. But we'll discuss that. I do want to
Yeah,
discuss
it's
this.
Final Nub has professes undying love for you. Someone else is a 26-month resub, and Will Podium just followed you on Twitch. So people making it clear just how much time they have for the Jarvis you stream.
Yeah. So let's just. I know you. Well, let me ask you. Did you actually end up playing this in the showcase?
I didn't. So the story
Okay.
there was I was actually going to play Delver, finally, just actually play the good deck for the first time. But I ran up against the rental limit complaint that so many others
Oh,
have had over time.
I see.
And I cared much more about the set roulette there was that day because I had to top 8 that to qualify for their end of year thing,
Yeah.
even though I had previously top 8 several, but they changed the rules midway through, so whatever. But because of that, I knew I was going to be playing control mirrors in that, and so I'd already, ran into issues with timing out on my connection before. I did not want to be double queuing control mirrors in a new format and lands in Legacy at the same time. That did not seem like a great way to go. So ended up just playing combo and getting demolished and not having a great time, but so be it.
I don't think this is the deck you want to double queue with either in certain matchups. Obviously, if you just comboed every time, it would be great. But there are plenty of matchups where you have to play like 15 plus turns in game one versus someone, you know.
Hmm.
Um, Anyways, let's talk about the exact. I didn't actually discuss all of the specific things about building this deck. What I think the primary question with regards to lands is if you should play Urza Saga or not. And for me, it's a resounding yes. Um, I think the card just gives you an excellent angle and threat density that you lacked before, if that makes sense. Um, it was sometimes hard to win games with just punching fire versus certain opponents in a how do I put it, in a fashion where that they wouldn't be able to work through all of your defense is how I would put it. And this was also a problem with Force of Negation as well. Specifically, if your low man P fire got Force of Negation in like a reasonable time frame, it was sometimes hard to win the game in that regard as well.
Yeah, I think it comes up a decent amount where your depth combo is unreliable for whatever
Right.
reason. Like, let's say you're against a deck with Plow or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then also you don't have one of your other engine pieces going on.
Right.
I think Saga is really clutch in those spots. And in
Yep.
particular, I really like having something to crop rotation for that
Yep.
lets you do something proactive
It,
there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That actually changed how I played the deck a lot. I was often burning crop rotations just to find Urza Saga to get a clock on my opponent, while just like I have exploration or loam going as well. It's just so good to do that now instead of, before you would rotate for stage, then like get depths and then like activate and then get plowed and then like you're kind of behind a little depending on the board state. But now you can just like get the constructs going and you know one saga leads to another in this deck because of the one expedition map, and sometimes Pithing Needle and Pirate's Helm are really good magic cards.
Yeah, I've played a lot of different Saga decks in Legacy. Like, I've had fun experimenting with those and
Uh-huh.
trying to find the right home for it. And almost regardless of what the deck is, like even or maybe especially the bad Saga decks, like
Mm-hmm.
most of the games I was winning with those were I would just play Saga and that by itself would win the game. Like, I didn't have to do anything else, which is good
Yeah,
because the rest of my deck was bad. But even in the good Saga decks, or the good decks that had Saga, like
yeah.
so often you could just lean into that card and it would win you the game. And having those,
Mm-hmm.
it's not free wins in the sense of you that you usually think about it, but it still is just the best card in so many spots.
Yeah, and I had this discussion with I think it was actually one Alex Hayne like a few months ago, and he asked if we even need red in this deck, which is like kind of an interesting question to ask, but mostly with regards to punching fire. I think he was okay with blast and Valakut exploration. And if you work on the theory that you don't necessarily need that many P fires, it's possible you should just play a fourth Mazavith, which sort of increases your consistency with like Mox Diamond or whatever as well as Valakut Exploration, a whole bunch of other things. And honestly, Mazavith is really good for Smirktide region, so there could be something there.
Yeah, I was kind of interested in playing like a bunch of Yavimires in a more mono green list
Yeah,
essentially. Um,
it's hard because one of the issues is I think Red Elemental Blast is actually really good. Um, like just because it's a good magic card, right? you know?
Yeah, I think in this setup it would be kind of maybe fewer groves,
Yeah.
more fetches or whatever, and you could still do that. But the other thing about Saga that I like is it kind of operates on a different axis than Dark Depths, where
Yep.
the matchups where you're just racing to kill them ASAP, Depth is going to be great there. But usually, the slower the matchup is, the worse that Depth is on
Yep.
average. And so in those spots, Saga is just the land that you want instead. And so having access to four of each of those, I think, really gives you the flexibility that you need to lean into whichever angle is best.
And I'll just give a quick breakdown of the stage saga thing because it's like not completely intuitive until you've played against or with it once or twice. So the way it works is if you copy saga with stage, if the stage had never been a saga before, it'll just be an Urza saga with 0 lore counters on it. So it'll tick up next turn and gain the first ability, which is tap for C. Then it'll tick up again and gain another ability, which is 2 tap. It becomes a construct. And then you could even tick it up again, but with the third ability on a stack, you should copy something else, like anything. Force is ideal because of Wasteland. and it'll just be a forest with the tap for C, 2 tap make a construct, and 2 tap copy something abilities, because that's how messed up this card is. Thespian Stage is. So you can kind of just get everything. Specifically, if you don't have that going, but you have crop rotation, with the 3rd ability on the stack, you can just like activate, make a construct, and crop rotate it away as well for another Urza Saga.
To clarify, for the audience, but also for myself, at what point can you stage a Saga to make it a permanent copy?
You mean turn it off from a Saga to something else?
Oh, so basically, at any point while the Saga is in play, you stage it, you let the stage Saga get to at least a 2nd chapter.
Yep.
And then you turn it into another land, and now you have... Yep. Is that how it works?
Yep. Because what happens is, when it says Urza Saga gains, it actually means this permanent gains. So it's really messed up, and then you'll just have, whatever with all those abilities on it. And, I don't think a lot of people can beat Packrat on a land, is how it actually works out.
Yeah, the dream in the Wasteland matchups is to get it on a basic forest, right? And then you're essentially untouchable.
With, Ghost Quarter or Pithing Needle are the ways around that, obviously.
Sure.
If they play Pithing Needle, then you just copy something and force them to move it off. Then you can set up another stage. Most people, when they play against this deck, do Needle stage anyways to begin with. But that's why Urza Saga is so nice, because then it's just like, all right, you have my stages off, I'll just like go manual and, make a bunch of constructs and see if that's good enough.
Yeah, especially with Saga being increasingly common in opposing decks too, where it's more likely that you get needled somehow in game 1. And at that point, it can be difficult if they needle your stage, and now Saga's just the perfect backup plan.
Yeah, so I'm pretty satisfied with this main deck. Maybe 4th Maze is correct. Maybe 2nd Port over 3rd Valakut Exploration is correct. I was definitely happy to cut the Retrofitter Foundry. I personally do not think the card is necessary. Obviously, some people disagree with me. I just never felt like I needed to fetch it except for Bant, and I kind of think that matchup is really good as it is, that you probably don't need that, if I had to guess.
I have seen such polarized opinions on that card. Some people say it's the best card in the deck, jokingly say it's the best card in the format, whatever, and then other people just not understanding the hype. I think it's also just nice as a way to kind of cold Ragavan as well.
Yeah.
And then, in theory, if you have enough mana, it can fog indefinitely against like a Murktide region or whatever too. But that's a very late game scenario.
That's unreliable, and I think it's going to get killed before you get to that point in the game, honestly. Like play a Braid or something, So, but I think, personally, it's better in the blue Saga decks because they don't have the late game of staging Saga, is my suspicion. I think that's just like a different animal, if I had to guess. Because that is like their late game engine, whereas this deck, well, you have a lot of late game, actually. You might even have too many, frankly, by this point, but is what it is. I will discuss the sideboard real quick. I think Endurance, Force of Vigor, Red Elemental Blast, and Sphere are all pretty explanatory. It's just a question of how many of those you want. I think you need Force Sphere in all of the bad matchups. It's possible that you should just concede those matchups and play Zero Sphere, but it kind of feels like you gain enough by playing it. And you'll actually see that it was actually really helpful for me in this tournament to play those spheres, because they actually work extremely well with Urza Saga. Because, like, if you just go land Mox, discard something, play Sphere, or, Saga Mox, discard something, play Sphere, you're actually presenting a 3/3 or 2 4/4s by turn 2 with a Sphere out. Not a lot of decks can beat that,
Yeah, the other thing is, what else are you meant to be using those sideboard slots on, right? Like, I guess
I could invent all sorts of situations, and I think it would probably be wrong. I think you probably should just keep it simple and play Sphere,
Yeah, like, if you expect a lot of Death and Taxes, maybe, is where you would want specific cards for that matchup, but otherwise it's either decks where, Reb, Endurance, Force are going to be good, or it's combo decks where you need something if you don't want to just concede those matchups, then I think Sphere is the best card there.
There was actually one Legacy GP where I sideboarded 2 Soulful Elementals, and I had a main deck Barbring because Conspiracy Take the Crown had just come out. So I expected people to play with Sanctum Prelate and Recruiter of the Guard. Those were both in that set, right?
Yes, I think so.
And also Leovold was, and that's a nonsense card too. So yeah, I think that's enough. Oh, I like Crucible. I like having exactly one Crucible. You almost convinced me to play it over the third Vex, but I think it's better to sideboard it. It works pretty well with Urza Saga on both ends, and it works well with your Wastelands. And if they surgical your loams, you still have the out of drawing that one. So someone asked why not split Pyro and Reb. So I'll answer this real quick. I don't think it really matters, but I also saw rhinos floating around a little bit. And they sometimes play misdirection there. And we just got a big raid from Jim Davis. So Jim Davis
Hello,
fans,
everyone.
Welcome to the stream. I'm going over legacy matches from the showcase. I guess it was literally yesterday, right? My sense of time is so messed up. Thanks for being here. I played Saga Lands, and if you like Saga Lands or if you like Legacy, hit that follow button. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, with that being said, should we get to the matches?
Yeah, and you know what I did? I did the thing that you've been too lazy to do, Dom. I recorded them. Because
you love to see it.
I think you actually do love to. So can I just... Dude, going too fast. Can I slow down the... Alright, whatever. I think this is fine. Fine with this? It's going at real time, but I can always pause. So, Kyo Aggro, they're a Japanese Delver player, so I'm actually fine keeping a hand like this. It's a little bit on the slow side. I know in the past I said I don't keep hands without acceleration, but I think... Well, A, Urza Saga has changed that equation a little bit, and B, I think Punishing Fire plus Loam is so good in game 1 that you should actually keep.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. You do see some of the awkwardness of Saga here, where sometimes you draw, a toolbox card in a matchup where it's not that good. That being said, it's not like you have an extensive Saga toolbox, and the Spellbomb cycles and the map is often just a good card to draw anyway. And even in this matchup, right, there's a good chance you're going to want to Needle Wasteland and have that protection.
So I had thought about that, and I actually think it's better to Needle Scalding Tarn on average, because I think your Wastelands are better versus them than theirs are versus you. But I'm not sure.
That's interesting.
You could make merit for that because I have specifically Urza Saga in my hand, right?
Yeah, I think
to Needle Wasteland rather.
I mean, even in general, like let's say you just drew the needle, I think the fact that lets you, go for depths unmolested, or you can. I just think there are so many spots where their wastelands are more punishing against you, even though you're a 36 land deck with Life in the Loam, right? Whereas, especially nowadays, I think it's rarer than it used to be that the Delver decks just get wasted into oblivion. Yep. And especially with Ragavan 2, where sometimes they get wasted and they can function anyway. This hand you have Punishing Fire, which can probably keep that in check too. But just a nice hand all around.
So let's see what happens. I don't really remember what happens because it was so long ago. By so long ago, I mean literally yesterday. So I have the memory of a goldfish, apparently. Oh, just a spoiler. My round 5 opponent didn't show up in this tournament when I was 3-1, so there's no recording for that match.
Must be nice.
It was weird. I couldn't remember what the timeout time was, so I'm just like I'm just like staring at the clock, and then my opponent just like literally didn't show up. So I'm like, great, we take those. Okay. I decided to speed it up a little bit because like no one wants to watch just the clock ticking down. So yeah, I go with the Scalding Tarn play. This is literally just knowing your opponent. I don't think you should do this blind almost ever. I think this is like asking for trouble. Also, really nice thing about recording the videos, you can like jump around. You can jump back pretty easily, which is something I wish the Moto replay thing had. Okay, so crop rotation I think is actually a really good draw. I like playing the
Huh.
loam here. You could leave up crop rotation, but I think if they waste you with this hand, you don't even really care because you have the Heath back in your hand. You just fetch, dredge loam, and then just get everything back. And like, I guess if they waste the Taiga, it's like a little bit more costly. But I do not
Yeah,
care.
see, I think in this scenario, the upside of getting the loam in the graveyard and having the Heath back is relatively low, but the way you get punished here, like this is so you can easily see how this game just completely goes south from here.
Yeah, it can. So it's kind of debatable which one you play here. I think you should play your. Yeah, I think this is correct, and I think you should just main phase it. If they daze, it kind of evens out how much mana they have access to, and they force it. I'm just like, that's great for me because now I think the crop rotation is more likely to resolve. Do wonder if I had needled Wasteland if this would have ended better for me though, like you mentioned.
Right.
Lawrence, I think wasting the green sources is super underrated, and I actually think for them to do that, it was decent. Although I guess they knew I had one sub teeth in hand, right?
Well, that too, and also the saga going off with the final chapter can sometimes just find a Mox Diamond, right? If you have a spare land. Um,
Should we P fired upkeep? No, because basically none of these decks played main deck Fawn anymore. So I'd rather just main phase to make them use days without getting access to mana. That's my
yeah. Also, I think with Caracas checking the Ragavan, we might actually prefer to get the fire force negation to protect our loam, right?
true, but I just think it's so unlikely he has or they have Fawn in their deck that I'm not going to worry about it. And Badlands gives a lot of information away. Now I know their deck is much more likely to be soft to Wasteland.
Yes. So were you thinking at this point it's more likely to be the
Aussie
Vuk
deck, yeah.
Grixis deck?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Um, so next turn, kind of interesting. What do you think you should get off of the Saga? And also, do you crop rotate? I'm crop rotating every time because it's just free real estate.
I would, yeah.
I mean, if they force it, it's not even that bad. It's a 2 for 2, right?
Yeah, it's a 2 for 2. We're still getting a card from the third chapter. We get to play Caracas, check Ragavan, so
Yep.
great kind of PG here. Um, knowing that there is Saga deck instead, in all likelihood, does that change your calculation at all?
Not really. Anyways, I think I just jam here. Because, like, think about it. They didn't force the first crop rotation. What's the likelihood that they force the second crop rotation, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Although I do wonder if, given that we were meant to dredge the dome to set up this line.
Well, don't I need basically all my mana this turn to do this?
Oh, you're just gonna jam now? Yeah. I think it's fine. It just seems like, I guess. So, what's the worst case scenario? They have force. They force your rotation, and then they have wasteland. But even then, you actually are still in somewhat decent shape.
I basically just can't fathom that they would not force the first rotation and force the second one, right?
It's also really nice knowing that they're Grixis because it means they're very unlikely to actually have an answer to Merit Lage.
Yeah, it could be like Brazen Borrower, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But
but compare this to like the Jeskai versions that have 4 swords main deck, and that's going to be a problem potentially.
Oh yeah, I would not make this play if that land were a Tundra. I would probably like go get like I don't know. I would do something else. I would think
I
it
imagine
all.
just another Saga, right?
Maybe might get Mazavith and Yavamaya.
I guess you could waste them as well,
Yeah,
even. But
I don't know. There's a lot of things you could do right there. Oh, let's see. How do I board? You get to see the boarding live. I think at this point I go look up Vuk's deck list on another monitor to decide what to do. If that makes sense.
yeah, so I think Red Blast is a given. Um, how do you feel about Endurance? Because I think that card is pretty good against straight blue red Delver, especially the card
Mhm.
Delver of Secrets. I think it's easy and maybe against exact. There's no guarantee it can actually attack or block that well. Maybe it's at its worst there.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. I think you're supposed to have it a lot of the time, but I'm trying to decide how fast I think this Grixis deck is going to go, essentially.
And with it being less aggressive, is I think the Crucible should become a consideration too.
So funny you say that. I kind of don't like the Crucible versus most of these decks. Um, Mostly because I think it being soft to like something like a braid is not that. It's both soft to a braid and daze, so I don't generally cite it. I like citing it in versus like Death and Taxes or like Maverick or stuff like that, if that makes sense. Or like Cloud Post to like use a really fringe example, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very similar to the first hand. It's actually almost exactly the same, right?
Yeah, it's slow, but I think it's fine and couldn't very easily become the nuts with exploration, diamond,
Yeah.
even life and loan potentially.
And I'm really glad to not see them lead on Ragavan because if they played Ragavan on one, I would have to like decide what land I should play, and it probably would have to be Caracas, even though like that's kind of the worst land to play on turn one in a lot of ways.
How many wastelands does Verklist have?
I think the answer was 3.
Okay. So yeah, likely on forest there.
Yeah, I was
Pretty
deciding.
straightforward.
I was deciding between that and fetch, essentially. I don't think you gain a lot by playing the fetch there, though. But as long as they're just spinning their wheels and not killing me, I'm pretty happy, you know? So I think the depths is actually a decent draw, but you have to be careful not to like get submerged or something like that. And I played the Saga here because I think if they have Wasteland, they're heavily incentivized to waste the Saga, then I can crop rotation it away, floating a colorless, which is like kind of nice. And I think all my other lands except the fetch are also vulnerable to Wasteland. But this is like a slight punishment for playing that land, right?
Yeah, I guess this would have been the argument for
Playing Caracas.
well, no, for playing Foothills on one instead, so that when you play Saga on two,
Mm-hmm.
if they go for this, you can fetch and try and fire it.
Yeah, so now you have to decide what land to play again this turn. I
Yeah, I
don't.
think I like Caracas there.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward again because, like, well, one thing I thought is if I play Caracas, do you think they'll even dash? But dashing prevents a construct, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, you can just make the construct and try to block, right? How much removal are they going to have in their deck?
That's true. Yeah, like they didn't even dash. Well, yet they might still dash, right? You never know for sure.
You can be pretty sure, I think. The thing is, if they dash now, it means, yeah, unless it's exactly snuff out and they have that in their deck, and they're willing to burn it on a Saga token.
Obviously, I'm just trying to get like every little bit of value now. So now you have to decide if you want to make a construct. I think you're probably supposed to. Like,
yeah, I would make a construct and fetch Mox Diamond. I think
I would also do that. But this is also like,
I don't like this. I think.
Yeah, I'm questioning this. One thing I'm really concerned about is, especially with regards to the construct defending versus Ragavan thing, a lot of these decks have Meltdown in their sideboard, so that can be unreliable.
Yeah, which also would be an issue with the Mox Diamond line. I guess to hedge against that, you could just fetch the Spell Bomb instead and like hold red up, and so you get to pop off the Ragavan or cycle it to draw a card, even in that case.
I don't know. I think this generally works out fine for me. If they have another look, so they used one force already, right? How do you feel about attacking?
Not actually, I'm okay with it because if they would need to have Dash Ragavan and Wasteland to punish you, and I think you're fine with exactly Caracas getting wasted anyway. Because then you bring back fire, then on your turn you get to loam and threaten just casting fire again. You've turned up all that mana.
Then they show True Name. I'm like, oh shit, my deck is not very well configured for this anymore. I don't play Drop of Honey or anything like that. So what this
means, you need the Shadow Spear, Jarvis.
I mean, there's not a Saga in play. I mean, I guess there could be one. That's kind of brutal, I think, actually, because I don't think the P-Fire does very much. And I also can't attack anymore. One thing I didn't mention is Pirate Spellbomb actually protects your looms from surgical extraction.
Oh, that's kind of hot.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know what kind of person is going to surgical your loam when there's a Pirate Spellbomb out, but it is, like, not irrelevant, right?
Well, you can imagine them having the surgical and waiting until after the Saga thing goes off in anticipation of your loam, and then just getting hosed by that.
Remember when I mentioned Meltdown?
It's almost like you knew it was coming somehow.
Well, I also just knew that these decks play one Meltdown in their sideboard for these scenarios.
Yeah. So this game has really gone south in a hurry.
I mean, I think I'm dead. Really, like, what has to happen is I have to draw stage or crop rotation for stage, and for them to have nothing, right? I think I can speed this up a little bit.
Yeah.
Alright. I drew a Ghost Quarter. That's not great. True Name hit me again. They're thinking. I forgot this opponent, like, they really use a lot of time thinking, but I guess it might also be late in Japan by that point, because I'm pretty sure they do live in Japan. I sometimes think about that. What kind of, like, the average Japanese player who plays these events, they must, like, reprogram their sleep schedule or something, right?
You've seen that article about Shota from like a decade ago, where
oh yeah, I remember that one. Yeah,
this was the year he won Player of the Year on Magic Online, and apparently for about 2 weeks straight at the end of the season, he played every single daily event and just slept in the gaps in between rounds. To the extent that a lot of people were like, this account must be several people just all using the account, because who could actually do that realistically as one human? But turns out the answer is Shota.
So I end up drawing crop rotation after a few turns, but I think, like, based on the way they're playing, is it's going to get Force of Willed. So what I'm hoping is that they tap out for something. I Ghost Quarter them. It kills their land, then they can't float mana, which is why I said a stop on second main. I'm just hoping it's hardcast Force of Will, essentially. Sometimes you gotta hope, but then I still need to peel like a way to kill that as well. So it's like a huge ask. They're fetching really fast. And I believe this is just Force of Negation, which kills me. Alright. We're done here. Alright. So, game 3, I don't think I change anything. Oh yeah,
So,
Crucible's not great versus Meltdown either, for what it's worth.
no. So you have how do you feel about having all 4 rotations in like this?
Crop rotations?
Yeah.
I like it. I specifically like it versus people who play with Wasteland.
Yeah, because I know it was always a somewhat hit or miss card against the Delver decks before. Against the
Well,
3 color.
Let me stop you there.
Yeah,
I never sided out the card versus deck.
sure. So it was
Yeah.
hit or miss, but just stayed in, regardless. But
Yeah.
I didn't know if the dynamic was different here for any reason.
So, okay, let's pause for a sec. Do you keep give reasons why or why not?
I think I keep because their deck is not very good at handling Merit Lage.
Mm-hmm.
If their answer to it is Wasteland, then you can potentially set up a sequence where you waste their waste and then can build towards Sage and Depths. And if you're doing that, if you find a green source at any point, then your loam becomes online. Between Tabernacle, Maze, and Wastelands, you have their creatures under control. And then crucially, with this hand currently, if you are building towards Merit Lage, it can't get submerged. So I think with all of that in mind, I would keep this. And especially on the play, like maybe on the draw, it's a little dicier, but I think on the play, this is fine.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it. I just knew it was a keep. Because I knew how soft their deck was to Wasteland. You have so much time on the play to like develop, like literally any green source makes this hand just bananas level good, you know. As you're about to say, it works out extremely well for me.
Even Urza Saga actually is a pretty nice draw here.
Yeah, I mean, you just have so many outs that are great. My opponent's about to be put into the pit of despair.
These are my favorite games against any of the creature decks.
And there's the green source, which basically eliminates a lot of the downside. So I'm thinking about what to do, and I'm just like, nah, this is... Yeah, I shouldn't overthink it. What I was actually thinking about was surgical extraction on... Oh, I take a snapshot. I was thinking about surgical extraction on waste being kind of debilitating, but I'm like, if they have that, it's like, I'm ahead so many cards that it'll probably end up fine anyways, right?
The weird thing that could happen is if they have extraction and daze, and then daze their own extraction. If like they really need that one land, but either way, the Tabernacle is going to put them in a body bag.
Oh, now I remember. My opponent makes a very subtle mistake in the next turn cycle or two. I'll see if you can spot it. An excellent draw. It's probably going to get forced, but that's fine. I'm not going to not cast it when I have limited green mana, right? Yeah, I don't know. Basically, Tabernacle being a free removal spell there, it was so insane for me, right? Let's see what we got. I believe it was exactly this turn where my opponent like very slightly messed up, and you'll see how in a second. Okay, so they play DRC, and then they play a Wasteland. All right. So any thoughts on to using waste on their turn? And if you waste, what should you waste?
Hmm.
If you're the Grixis player, and assume your hand's kind of bad because you haven't played any cantrips or anything, you know?
So, yeah, it's tricky from their standpoint. You could go after the green source on the grounds that, like,
Mm-hmm.
if it took you this long to develop that plus exploration, maybe it's your only green source, and this is cutting you off a crucial resource.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, though, like you've burned a wasteland, which is, a valuable card in and of itself,
Mm-hmm.
on this risky gambit, which doesn't actually help you with the problem that's on the board necessarily. Um, and like it leaves you so vulnerable to either top deck green source or Maze of Ith, which is what you have, or any other stuff. What conclusion did you come to?
I think if I were them, I would probably waste the Tabernacle, but it also depends a lot on what's in their hand. Uh, I'll show you what they did, which is completely wrong. So now I'm thinking, well, if they didn't waste me, what if I just play stage? So there's a few issues with playing the stage, but I actually kind of think they're so likely to waste that Tabernacle to try to unlock their mana to dig with cantrips.
And then you just say to Tabernacle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. See, you can see me thinking about doing other things, and I just I conclude it's wrong.
Yeah,
Here's
I don't think there's a reason to go for Loam there.
here's what you should not do, and what my opponent's about to do. You should not waste this Tabernacle. This is like basically the worst play you can make. Like, I'm not even joking. I think it's like outright bad to do that. Like, because what kind of progress can you even make here if you waste the Tabernacle, right?
Well, also the stage is face up, right? So it's
Yeah. Oh, I think they brainstorm first, then waste the Tabernacle. And actually, sorry, the first Force pitch to brainstorm, it was actually pretty likely that they had a second brainstorm in hand, right? I guess like relatively, but not 100%. Yeah, they're about to waste a tab. Okay, so we'll get to the punchline. Because I could just see what was going to happen. I was just in the Matrix. How often do you see a tabernacle? It's actually a lot more common with Yavimaya now.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Alright, so we'll fast forward through it. Because they dash over Ragavan, doesn't really matter. My plan is to just play depth, say go, let them pay for the tabernacle trigger, then copy. And
Diamonds.
yeah, because you can actually play Wasteland now, right? Or yeah, you can use your other Wasteland. What I mean.
Yeah.
And I don't have a green source for Submerge, and you know, all the world's a stage. I believe that that person's from your country.
Well, those people, depending on who you ask, but.
Oh, really? What? Well, how do you qualify Shakespeare?
Well, there are some people who think that Shakespeare had to be several people running under the same name because how could one person be that prolific?
Yeah. So for good practice, you should just let the trigger resolve, see what they do. Because if they don't pay, maybe there's a world where you don't. Realistically, given how I've played, I should just do this every time. I think here. Yeah, this is just real nonsense, right? Like, Thespian Stage is a messed up Magic card. Right. And they can... So that's round one. Great match. Alright, maybe we should go over these a little bit faster.
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah. So round 2, Will Pulliam. I kind of think it's going to be a lands mirror. So, I mean, this hand's not the most exciting, but it has a crop rotation to cover shenanigans and a wasteland and a port. So I keep for that reason.
So, big picture, what is your strategy, and I guess also your tactics for the lands mirror?
So in game 1, it's almost all about bogging their bog. Because if you bog their bog, you can control their loams and they can't control yours. Which usually, the problem is to get to that point, you have to have acceleration as well.
Yeah, toast. Lands did exist before stage, but killing the opponent was a lot more time consuming. So
Yep.
you had to either use Grove and Punishing Fire, or a lot of lists had a Barbarian Ring that you could loan back endlessly. You had like attack with Mishra's Factories. You had to really get scrappy, and it would often take a lot of time. Whereas, Depths and Stage just really accelerates that process. Yeah, Nantuko Monastery, a real banger from the early 2000s.
So I sped up a few turns because I think this is where it kind of gets interesting. I am having a hard time figuring out what's in my opponent's hand, mostly because like they haven't done very much. But I
Right.
also don't really want to burn these competitions proactively versus a wasteland. So it's like kind of tricky, right?
Yeah, they're not popping off with Diamond or Exploration. So that would lead me to think they have to have at least one of Rotation and Loam, because like what else would be in their hand that they would be inclined to keep, especially knowing what you're likely to be on. I don't know if Will thought you could be on a blue-red deck of some kind,
Mm-hmm.
which maybe would change the range of keepable hands there.
Yep.
And in a way which actually would make it a lot worse in the mirror, right? Because you might keep a hand against Delver that's a bunch of mazes and Tabernacle and Grove P-Fire or whatever, which is not going to get it done in the lands mirror.
So now you have to decide, like, so you could jam Merit Wage, but I hate doing that because it's so soft to crop rotation. Basically, crop rotation is like counterspell in the mirror. It's really valuable because depending on what actually happens, you can sort of like set up a situation where it's good for you, you know? I actually did briefly consider wasting a responsive trigger, then I realized like the one colorless doesn't actually matter very much. But I do decide to copy their Saga, which is kind of hot. But then they can just waste my stage, and then my plan is to just rotate this away because I've like initiated.
Yeah.
Getting a different Urza Saga, because why not?
Oh, and this is kind of hot now. You could, if you want to, double waste and then port their forest.
Yeah.
Is that the plan here?
You lose a construct out this way, but yeah, that is kind of my plan. Obviously, and okay, I'm gonna say one thing. Don't F6 immediately like that. It gives away so much information.
I'm thinking, is there any consideration, because the forest could represent crop rotation here, if you pass on their upkeep, you port their forest, and then in their draw step, if they do nothing, you waste both their lands.
I thought about it, and I'm just like, okay, what? I mean, I didn't do it because they didn't really do anything with Green Mana before, so that exploration had to have been top decked, right?
Yes. Yeah, there's no real downside to running it out, especially when you have your own. So, Blast Zone is more symmetrical.
And I think I'm in such a low resource game that, like, I actually have to get Expedition Map with this Saga. I'm thinking about rotating, obviously, but I don't think you can rotate because if they just have Loam, you actually immediately die, right?
Yeah, I think rotation is such a useful tactic that you can't just fire it off unless you really have to. I don't like playing that second exploration.
Yeah, I
don't like
shouldn't have. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that, actually.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty big error, I think.
And yeah, there's now Loam. Yep.
Yeah, that did not need to happen.
Well, I think I actually would rather bog their Loam than bog the land, right?
Maybe.
I don't know. I guess it's close, but um, first story is now I'm forced to bog the loam because you can't really let that go unchecked, right?
Hmm.
Right. We'll just fast forward a bit. So I bog the loam. They have a map. They waste me, and they have a second loam. And I think I'm starting to see the writing on the wall because I don't have my own loam still. And if they can map for bog, uh, bog me, waste their bog, or no, they can waste my bog and then waste their bog to get bog recursion, and then I'm checkmated. Like I said before, I did say that right. That like that's what it's about.
Yes.
So
And yeah, we're kind of outmatched on all fronts here.
so let's see if it actually happens. Doesn't look like it happened. I note the field of the dead because it's actually pretty important to know about these things. You know? I mean, okay, so yeah, no, but my bog didn't get bogged yet. I don't know. Uh,
So here's a question for you. I don't know if it even makes sense to ask it in these terms, but what would you say? Like, how often do these mirrors actually become kind of interesting and skill intensive versus they're weird in the sense that they don't resemble conventional
yeah,
magic, but
yeah.
it's pretty clear what the lines are.
Great question. I think about 20%, about 40% of the time, one player gets run out of the building. Is how I
Yeah,
would put it. I think that's exactly what you're asking, right?
basically, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's about 40% of the time someone just gets like horribly killed, like that happened. Um, I'll just mention how I approach mirror. I don't think Dark Depths is a particularly good card because I think it's so easy to get destroyed. But you do want some level of defense first it, and you also want to leave it in if your opponent leaves you an opening to kill them.
Yeah.
Essentially, I don't think it's particularly good besides that, but you're allowed to have one in, and you have a lot of shitty cards. And I kind of think I think Will's list probably did not have targets for punching fire, but you kind of want to leave exactly one in. I don't like Pithing Needle because it's like symmetrical, and I'm not sure if it's going to be good or not.
It is symmetrical, but it feels like there are enough relevant cards
Mm-hmm.
with activated abilities that usually you're going to have one that your opponent doesn't, and vice versa. Or you can find an opening where like you needle their Caracas and then you get to shove on depths or something. Like
Yep.
it feels like you can find some kind of use for that card.
So, someone asked about Tabernacle and the mirrors now. I think it's actually different, and you're supposed to leave it in because it's actually pretty easy to die a bunch of constructs and uh, going around your stuff, and also because of Field of the Dead. I think normally I wouldn't, but I think nowadays it depends on the exact build. I think for School Stick I want to. It's not great, I will agree, but there's like that 10% chance that the game plays out that way.
Interesting.
I also I don't know. I would keep this hand, but it's missing a loam. But that's the only thing it's missing, right?
I think also when you have Saga, just having the needle in your deck adds so much flexibility.
Oh, sure, that's true.
It maybe doesn't know your exact sideboarding plan, but being able to force him to act in response to the third chapter, I think, lets you then play around that pretty nicely.
True. Uh, Also sometimes you should sandbag land, especially uh if you have enough explorations. I'm sandbagging the second exploration because of Valakut exploration too. But the other reason to sandbag the second exploration is because of Blast Zone as well. There's a lot of like small things you can do to try to minimize the impact of cards. I'm gonna see if I ever end up drawing a gas spell. So I staged the Saga again. And this is kind of not great for me. It's not the end of the
Yeah,
world, but
that's brutal.
it's not great. Loam is a decent draw at least, and I still have the exploration behind. Since most people only play 3 Force of Vigor, I think there's a good chance that this exploration doesn't get killed. So yeah, I kind of just have to do this now because I don't want the Saga to get out of hand. And now I know the further Ghost Quarters will be actual strip mines,
Yeah, it's unfortunate that using the Ghost Quarter lets them potentially rotate for Bog now, but you have to Ghost Quarter there. I don't think you can play around that.
I'm also trying to avoid playing Yavimaya because the problem with playing Yavimaya in these mirrors is it means their min is perfect forever, right?
Yeah.
So they're probably going to map for Bog and Bog me. And they do because like you just can't let this continue, right? So what happens? They get VE plus exploration the very next turn. I played Amazing Sage. I have a crop rotation, so something I could do is try to kill them by ghost quartering their waste, but they could also make merit, so it doesn't even really work. So I would basically...
And they're at 21 too.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you have to do it anyway, honestly, but...
I think Hero's just doing this because I'm playing to rotate for Urza Saga to try to get something going. It's not great. Oh, I actually think they kill my Blaststone because otherwise I take it up to 3 and kill their Valkyrie Export, right?
That's smart.
So I think that happens, but we'll just fast forward. Yeah, they do that. I rotate for Saga and then I stage my Saga, I think. Because I'm just trying to, like, get something going, you know? Now, here's... I think maybe you were right about Pithing Needle. This Pithing Needle is extremely good.
Yeah, the brutal thing is that not only does it shut down your sagas, but your stage is now named Urza Saga, so it can't remorph into something else, right?
Right. And I believe the land... Wait, what happens? It looks like a Depths happens right after that. And then now I'm, like, kind of in the Hurt Locker. And since I'm Hellbent, you can kind of wait, but you also want to see if you have an answer for the thing. What did I map here for? I think I mapped for Wasteland just to protect myself. It's unclear if that's better than getting Caracas. What do you think? Would you get Asu's actually maybe I should have gotten Stage, right? Was there any merit to getting Stage?
Yeah, I think there was.
So I don't know if you noticed, I should not have tapped that Maze of Ith. That was
yeah.
That was really, really bad. I should have tapped this Urza Saga that literally has no abilities except tap for green.
Yeah, or any of the red green lands.
I could have just not done
also
that.
tapping for green. Yeah.
That was really, really bad to do that, I think. But you know, it is what it is. Crop rotation is actually a decent draw. And remember, it's needled, so... And getting a Mox Diamond does nothing, so... I actually think I should have cycled this, because if I find Loam, it's so insane for me, right?
Yeah, and, like, what are you planning to do with it otherwise?
It doesn't really do anything.
It seems unlikely that the construct being 1 point of power bigger when Will's at 18 is going to make the difference, so... Yeah, with that in mind...
So, I actually draw Crucible, which is actually an excellent draw. And one of the cards I think so few people besides me play this card, and I kind of think it's an error. How do I lose this game?
Oh, you lose this game?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, I think I probably get overly... Oh, no, there's a Force of Vigor for this and this. I think is part of it. Or for that and that. Interesting. Alright, let's see. Let's speed up. Oh, they have Loam.
Sure, that makes sense.
But I still have Bog. So, but that means I have to Bog that. Oh, and then they have Field. and I Ghost Quarter the stage in response to the field because it's the 7th land type. And the force is already out, so. Okay, I know what happens. They push the button on the thing, trying to kill the opponent, and it works. I cycle my spell bomb, and the next card is Loam. So, this was completely avoidable. Although, they could have just done that in response to Loam, right? So maybe I actually did not have an out by that point. But yeah, I'm dead now.
Oh, your maze is shut off?
Well,
they have Wasteland.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I knew it from Malone. So it was kind of sad. But, I think I threw it, but I'm not 100% sure if that makes sense. What do you think? Think I probably threw it?
Yeah, field checks on resolution.
All right. Round 3. This is another mirror. I'm going to try to speed through this one as well. I don't know it's a mirror because this person has a wide range when I check them on Goldfish. But they're also 61 cards, so it could literally be anything. But Mox Diamond gives a lot of information away. That also gives a lot of information away. Right. Let's see what happens. I'm deciding whether to bog that or not. I'm not sure. What do I decide? I think this is fine, because if they bog my Loam, I have a second Loam anyway, so it's, pretty good for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Alright. Oh, how do I get out of this? Oh, that's how. If I didn't draw Exploration, I think I was kind of blue there. Quick note. A lot of people would dredge Loam there, and I'm just like, what are you hoping to accomplish is my question. Right?
Especially if you think you're far enough behind that you need to hit Exploration or something to get back in it.
Yeah. And now I bog their Loam because if you let them keep it with Exploration out, I think it's just too much, right?
Yeah.
And we're also getting to the point of waste of wait, did I get their bog? No, I haven't. But if I ever get to bog their bog, it's actually checkmate on this board, I think. But they bog my bog, so if I draw a wasteland or rotation, I can actually initiate checkmate. So I think that's what happens. Excellent. So you actually have to wasteland their bog first, so you need a turn, because I'm going to use stage to copy my wasteland. So let's just fast forward. Yep, I staged my waste. They don't have the thing. And yeah, this is actually checkmate.
What's the reason to wait to stage first?
Because what if they is there a reason? I can't think of one. I had a reason at the time, I don't remember it, but yeah. So I waste their bog, I float, I waste my own bog, and now I loam everything back and I bog their bog. And
that's why. Yeah, okay. Yeah. You had to double waste.
Yep. No. That's why. And now, if you know how the mirror works, they can't actually do anything, because I will just bog every loam that they play. And I have merit covered, and that's not what you want, so I'm just going to speed through. Because by this point, it doesn't actually matter what happens. Alright, so another mirror. I think I board exactly the same way, because there's not really a reason to deviate.
Yeah, you're leaving the Tabernacle in potentially to handle field. If you haven't seen field yet, is that less of a thing?
I think I still left it in because of constructs, because constructs are really hard to deal with if they needle your Maze of Ith.
And you did actually leave the needle in this time.
Yeah,
was that just after
I learned my lesson
experience?
After the yeah. Sometimes losing to something is a good teacher, you know. So my hand's pretty good. I think I kept a few lands exploration, Valkyd exploration, which is never a mulligan in this mirror, you know. So I played VE, played all my stuff. Can't play that maze. And yeah, I think I ghost quarter myself to get a main source to leave up crop rotation. Maybe I reconsider. I don't remember. No, I think I reconsider, yeah. I was hoping to hit a Force of Vigor actually. Because with the green card in my hand, I can just cast Force of Vigor, killing both of those, or that, and that's like a pretty good sequence for me. Alright, fast forward. Alright, spoiler, they had hard cast Force of Vigor on Valakut Exploration, which is pretty brutal, you know? I was just checking to make sure I had one Dark Depths in my deck before I did anything. You know, might as well check. And the Caracas means, like, even if I do it, if they have a crop rotation, it's bad. But here's the issue. I have, like, nothing going on, right?
What's that?
I have nothing going on, so I kind of just have to see if they're dead, right?
Yeah, I think so.
But, alright, they pass without playing the other exploration. That actually makes me think that they have crop rotation. Because, like, why else?
Yeah. I
Well,
mean,
no, actually, no. You can't even say that for sure, right?
yeah, because at this point with one exploration,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you really need a second, and just pinging you for one is better than not doing that if you think that's a thing. So,
Yeah,
I don't think it's a hard read, but then also, as you say, how does this game ever get better for you?
no, it doesn't. So I end up quartering it, or sorry, I end up porting it, which I think is slightly better, obviously. But so spoiler, they had crop rotation for Wasteland because the Crocus was already in play, and this is the best time to Wasteland after the copy has resolved. And like, yeah, I'm pretty dead. So we'll just move on to the last game because I can't ever get out of this now. Whoops, a little bit too fast. Let's just take a look. Yeah, this hand's excellent. Not much to say about it, right? How would you actually play this hand, I guess, is the real question, right?
Yeah, it's
I think I'm basically hoping to find a better card to discard to Mox Diamond than Urza Saga. I don't really
right.
want to discard those, right?
You could discard Tiger, but then Force of Vigor actually does become an issue
Right,
potentially.
that's why I didn't want to do that because I think that's just
Yeah,
my hand's so good that like why risk that fail case. The Crucible means I think Force of Vigor is actually not an issue anymore, which is kind of nice.
yeah. So once you cast the exploration, are you planning to cast the or play the other saga here?
Yeah, because if I hit another land, it's really good for me. Unfortunately, crop
Oh,
rotation.
wait, you
So,
don't have another land drop left over though, right?
uh, oh, you're right. So I guess it's hard for that to improve. Then,
You could like mill a loam or something, which is
yeah.
fine, but it feels like you're just wasting the land drop otherwise.
Did we want to stage their saga for the construct trick? That must have been from a different game because that's not where this game is going. Oh, so funnily enough, they actually force a vigor to my Valakut exploration before end step, so this is permanently exiled that I can play it. They should have let the mill resolve and kill it from VE.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, small mistake, but well, actually, kind of a big mistake now that I think about it. You know. Also, I did this terribly. I should just play the Mox first. Because what if they just fobbed with the Mox on the stack, right? Alright, so let's speed up a little bit. They had endurance to clear out my graveyard, but that doesn't really matter, you know? Oh, in line 2? Yeah, no, I think just trying to kill them on that board state is obviously the best play, even though it's so unlikely to work. I'm thinking about Spell Bomb for some reason. Oh, to pump my construct. I don't know if that actually matters. Probably should just get Map. Map is insane. Oh, you ready for this? I don't know if this was good, but I decided it was correct.
So, that's adorable.
Yeah, I don't know. You play enough. I think my opponent's actually mostly dead from here. Oh, I found an exploration, plus I have the rotation still. So they're basically in the hard lock with Wasteland, because I've killed their forest. Oh, I think I bogged their bog for checkmate again. No, I didn't. I don't know what happened. I probably got a... Looks like I got a Saga, but it looks like... I don't know. They're like full-blown dead. This is the end state. They can never win from here, right?
Yeah, it's garbage time.
All right. Yeah. So we got to take garbage time a little bit faster. I'm taking another screenshot for God knows what reason. But let's just... Fortunately, there's... So, okay. I know this person normally plays elves, and I think I saw them working in the chat. This is exactly the type of hand you want versus elves.
Oh, this is completely ridiculous. Yeah.
You mean Lage them?
Turn to Lage with Blast Zone backup even. It's yeah. I mean, love to see it.
And I won the die roll, so like sometimes you can get combo killed.
Oh, there's Giga dead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just gonna speed through it because like it's not really that interesting to watch my opponent. Yeah, so they're dead.
That's game.
Yeah,
I guess in theory, once they go Foothills, Forest, Reclaiming, they could be on like green-white or something. At which point,
I checked their history, and also like my hand doesn't do that much else. Like you lose so much equity if you get scared here, right?
Yeah, Tristan, you were saying it was so complicated, but this seems pretty straightforward to me. So I don't know. Right.
So I also still think they're elves, so I sideboard like they're elves. I actually do like Sphere now. In the past, I didn't like Sphere because I think a lot of the games, especially in the draw, sometimes Sphere is not that good for some. But I decided nowadays, since I have this Urza Saga backup plan, it's like pretty good. I should cut another maze. I don't know what I'm thinking about. Yeah. Maze is not that good for selves, but I think you want exactly one.
I think I would cut the Valakut explorations and have the needle in my deck, just because, especially once you see that on Reclaimer elves.
I think
like Reclaimer and its targets are both valid targets there.
You're 100% right, and I think I ended up doing that later. Spoiler: I play against elves again. This hand's fine. Like, it's not insane, but it's actually fine. The P-Fire is worth a lot, and there's a Saga. Now this hand's much worse. That is what I will say, right?
Yeah, it is. Hopefully the Saga can get you across the line by itself, especially if the rest of their hand isn't very good.
Right. Sphere's an excellent draw, but now you have to decide what you want to do, you know? So Taiga's actually better than Grove here.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
What were you thinking about what land to discard?
Yeah, I just didn't clock the ley line for some reason.
Yeah, no. So I have no enchantment removal in my deck, so you should just get Taiga and not the Grove. And I think P-Firing is actually better than playing Sphere. Or, no. No. Actually, I changed my mind. Here's why. if they tap 2 mana for an elf, they can't play another elf. Whereas if you P-Fire, they could just very easily play 2 1-mana elves, right?
Yeah, I guess this is the downside because now they can actually cast 2 spells through the sphere even.
They
So
needed
this is
Gaia's
a
Cradle
little
for that.
dicey.
They needed Gaia's Cradle
Yeah,
for that, so it's like whatever. But now you have to kill one of the Reclaimers, I think.
agreed.
And now I'm really hoping their deck doesn't have like what would be the worst card for me? Probably like Rex Sage would be a brutal card, but no one plays that anymore.
Hey, you could just get natural ordered here, right? They have a land.
Yeah, but what am I going to do about it? All my chips are on the table. This is how the deck works sometimes. Okay. They attack for 1 and say go, and I'm like thrilled about that. I kind of think what that means is their hand is like full of like run of fouls and shit, or like maybe
Interesting.
like some removal spell for Merit Lage. But my hand this game is not about Merit Lage, and I don't play Saga here, and I'm pretty sure you can figure out why. If you play Saga here, you give up the 2 constructs.
Yeah. I guess you give out 1 construct, right?
Yeah, but like, what's the gain of playing the Saga that turn?
I guess there isn't one, yeah.
This game's going to be on such thin margins for me because none of my engine cards really work, right? Like, I basically have to eke value out from all of these cards to win. We'll just speed a little bit. They're deciding what to get with Proclaimer, essentially. They get a Wasteland. What's this? Trying to speed up the match for you. So they waste me after. No, they just initiate it, and then I make a construct in response, obviously. So if I knew they were going to waste me, I would have much rather played the Urza Saga, but I didn't know that that was going to happen for sure, right? And now well, okay, so you shouldn't initiate Wasteland on Saga because they'll just rotate it away for another Cradle, right? Or as
Yeah.
on their Cradle, rather. So I think you're supposed to just pass or attack and then pass, because I think the damage matters, obviously. Oh no, but if you do that, it becomes a 3/4. So I actually realized that and didn't attack. Past me knew. Current me did not think about it.
You Saga on waste on upkeep? Or I guess now this is weird in the face of
So I don't really know why they activated now, because now I
yeah,
just
this
get
seems kind of loose.
yeah. I don't think that was supposed to happen. I put a stop because like if they're doing that, they're probably trying to like hoof me or some shit, right? And now they have 1, 2, 3 mana. Another
They
Cradle
could
would be
be
enough, but
yeah, they could be trying to bait it if they're holding another cradle. Like that kind of makes sense to me, but
yeah, but they've been through 2. But like if they have a natural order, which is a little bit more likely because there's 3 orders versus 2 Cradles left, right?
yeah, I still think you have to fire it off, but
So
rotation is nice.
yeah, I think that protects me from a hoof, essentially. But they still can't hoof unless they have a mana source. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, tap that. And the hoof is not even lethal, which is the other nice part, right? Oh, I naturally drew Blast Zone. That's kind of gas. So I'm just putting stops everywhere. Like every conceivable spot where I might want to activate Blast Zone, I'm going to just leave it up. So the question is if you waste that with your crop rotation. I think the answer is no. I think zoning is actually better. Because here's the thing. If you zone, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but all of their lands are tapped. You can tank a hoof hit still, and then it just kind of doesn't do very much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I run through the iterations. That's why you see me clicking a bit. Sometimes I just have to click the buttons to see if I want to do it or not, you know? And they don't do anything for another turn because, like, I think the hoof is not lethal again, so that's why they didn't do it. They fetch because of Pithing Needle. And I think I just get Expedition Map to go find Tab later. Probably what's happening. But also they're very close to dying to the constructs, you know? I think I determined that if they hoof me, I can tank it with my constructs, even if they have like another cradle, even if I leave just one back or something like that. I think that's what I was thinking about. But let's just fast forward. So 6/6 constructs are very different from 5/5 constructs, right? Because they're at 12. I'm just putting them under the gun, you know, because now they have to jump one, which is one less mana for the cradle. Then I can probably map for tab, and that ends the game. Oh, I didn't map for tab. I left up rotation. I guess I kind of wanted them to like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wolf still doesn't do anything. But no, I should have gotten tab because like now, if they natural order for Brugenis, I could actually lose, right?
Yeah, I mean, is there an argument for just wasting the cradle?
Yeah, there's also an argument for that. Basically, this was not supposed to happen. Now that I see this in retrospect.
Actually, you could even just waste the Arbor, because...
Yep. Because it's 2 mana, right?
Yeah, they can't get to a relevant mana breakpoint this way anyway, and the Arbor is something that could theoretically chump block.
Yep. So I think I messed it up. How am I getting a Saga? Alright, so another sphere plus the Wasteland. I actually did this in the wrong order. I'm supposed to play the sphere first to play around crop rotation. But I think they're dead. Yeah. Okay, so a little bit of me making a few mistakes towards the end, which definitely could have cost me, but they were mostly in the half Nelson, I would put it, right? It was not the full Nelson. So Scooby Lou, also an Elves player. So the hand's worse than the other one, right? For Elves, but it's still pretty damn good, right?
I think this hand is good, yeah, especially with the turn 2 Blast Zone, which, yeah, hits you in exploration, but I think that's fine, and you have a lot of redraws to the nuts. If you have time to set up map, then that can get Tabernacle or Dark Depths, so yeah, happy with this hand.
Funnily enough, right before this match started, this person PM'd me GL on Facebook, and then I was just like sad face in chat. You can see it. It's a little bit cut off at the end, but that's actually a sad face. So there's a lot of ways to play this now. I'm not sure what's the best way to play it. So let's actually pause for a sec. What would you do this turn and why?
Okay, so this turn, I think, after leading on turn 1 Shepherd, it's pretty unlikely for them to be able to do anything ridiculous on turn 2.
Right.
Especially with Newton's list, which I believe has like at most, like it's no Nettle Sentinel and it's not the full Heritage Druid.
Right.
So with that in mind, I would be inclined actually to play, I think, Blast Zone, Ghost Quarter with the intention of, and just hold up map with the intention of getting depths or getting Tabernacle, depending on how that turn goes.
Right. I don't know what I did, but I think that's reasonable. The other thing you could do that's reasonable is Valakut Exploration plus fetch land.
I don't think there's any real incentive to do that. I think if you if you believe you can take the turn off, then you Valix and fetch land, and then even if they pop off on turn 2, you can map a Tabernacle, and between the fetch land hits and the Tabernacle next turn, you're seeing 4-ish new cards of exploration, so that might be fine too. Yeah, I think that's defensible.
I think I end up doing that, but we'll see what Thespian wanted to do. And I think it is actually better to play the Ghost Quarter than the Blast Zone for sure, to just disguise it, obviously. I hit Caracas. You might as well fetch again to see if you hit Exploration.
Sure.
Nope. So nothing helpful.
I guess the downside is play it and can't recur it immediately.
This is fine. I mean, like, I kind of think all of the ways I lose involve them playing a bunch of things into the Blast Zone, and then I can still map for, like, something else, like the depths, and then, like, it's just so insane for me, right? Like, they're incentivized to just spam their hand here, right? Unfortunately, that is not something that dies to Blast Zone, but
yeah,
you know. Or you could just do it easily. That's actually a really good draw because you don't have to, you can leave up both Blast Zone activation and Depths activation, right?
Where it's breaking. Yeah.
I think you're breaking up a little bit. Oh, yeah, there it goes. Okay, I think you're thinking like,
Skype noises. Skype noises.
All right, so we're here now. So I drew Dark Depths. Like, what I was about to say was, I think that's a really good draw because it means I can just play Zone Depths and say go. And it's really unlikely Natural Order can kill me through the Blast Zone and Special or the Stage on Depth, right?
Yeah.
So I think I just decided to do that. There's no reason to play the Loam. So. And this attack, this attack makes me pause and I check the list to see if there's like some weird like plow nonsense that could be in his main deck. But then I realize, like, do I even care? I have a Loam in the graveyard, even if there's a plow, right?
Yeah, I think you just have them snookered on all fronts here.
Yep. All right. He was just checking to see if I would be a coward.
Zero respect.
All right. I think this is the match where I leave in Pithing Needle, and it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And I should have done it the first time, but sometimes I'm silly. So you would cut a Vex.
For what?
Well, this is 61 card.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Can't cut a Loam. Thinking about it. Thinking about it. Thinking about it. Thinking about it.
You could cut Caracas maybe, but I think there's...
Yeah. I don't know. I just like untapped mana sources in this matchup, actually. Like, that sounds funny, but it's like actually sometimes an issue, you know? What was that?
Oh, I think we're cutting in and out again. Let me try closing some stuff.
I mean, I can hear you. So yeah, I just end up cutting all mazes, and I don't think maze is really that good in the matchup.
Let me... Hold on.
All right. I'm actually going to pause for a sec while you see. I'm going to get some more water real quick. Be right back. One sec.
Okay, it's sounding a little better, I think. But yeah, I'll pause too. Give me a second.
Yep. All right. Be right back, chat. And if you're new here, you want to support the stream, hit that follow button. And if you really want to check things out, type !September and !Coaching. And thanks for being here, y'all.
Jarvis clap.
Yo, Matt, welcome back. All right, time to see if Dom's back. And all right, chat, what are you all up to?
Okay.
All right, it actually sounds a little bit better now. I don't know. Let's see, where is the VOD? Okay, there it is. Let's go ahead. I decided to cut all of the mazes this time, actually, because I kind of think you rarely die to scrappy beatdown from them, right?
Yeah, very occasionally it's like you have them locked under, I don't know, tabernacle or something, or a sphere, and they're trying to cross the finish line, and maze helps with that. But yeah, by and large, you're right, I think.
Urza Saga makes that so much harder, I think, is the reality.
Yeah, that's true. So
And look at this hand. Just we ain't mad at this one, is what I would say, right?
beautiful.
The actual danger is you might die to beatdown, but I think between the sphere and tabernacle, it's actually a really, really, really easy situation to be safe in, you know?
Yeah, it is a little annoying that the Caribbean Ranger blanks Wasteland in theory, although sometimes you can actually trap them under, Tabernacle plus Wasteland.
Right.
If they're mana light, but I wonder if was Grove the right land there to play on one?
Oh, I see. In case if I draw another waste so I can double waste them.
Double waste, or yeah, just like having, I guess, just having the wasteland in play. Like I don't. You have the Mox Diamond to cover colored mana requirements, and even if you drew exactly Punishing Fire, then you would still be able to set that up for the following turn. So
yeah, spoiler, I need Old Ranger here because I think it's actually pretty good to do so. Because there's like a chance they just don't even have a third land, right?
yeah.
Send the Queer and Ranger would essentially let them make the land drop after paying for tap, which is like worth a lot. So let's roll. They pay. I don't really think this game will last that. All right. So look at this. They glimpse with a sphere out. So what does this tell you? What do you think is about to happen?
So wait, this is after a land drop. They have no mana floating. They're about to. Huh.
I just want to see if you can guess it.
Let's see here. So they have a mana off the 2 rangers.
And that's it.
Oh, is this okay? So they're gonna glimpse, and then they're gonna cast endurance.
Yeah, it just like looks so goofy, but that means their hand's really terrible, right?
Yeah.
And they pitched Crater Hoof, and I'm just like, oh, this makes so much sense. And Newton's list only plays 1 hoof, so that actually makes the game so much easier to play, you know?
Right.
So now, well, no, this is not a shame concede. I think they're just trying to get things going because, like, none of those cards are good in this situation going on.
Yeah, it's so funny watching the elves versus lands games where their deck is so sluggish when it's under like several lock pieces at once.
And this Saga is phenomenal. This is exactly what I want here because now I think like on this board, how do you beat 2 4/4s that I have to pay for?
I would prefer to waste the Cradle here.
I think I determined that they couldn't cast Natural Order next turn, so I was fine playing Saga this turn.
That's fair enough. I mean, I think even given that, just it's so hard for them to come back unless they have. I guess you waste them, they have another Cradle. It's maybe an issue, but
yeah, that's what I was thinking. But maybe
no, even in that case, you have the Ghost Quarter too.
Yep.
Like actually, think about it from this part. If they had a second Cradle, they use the first Cradle to pay on upkeep. They play the second one. They tap that for 2. The other lands get them to 4, and then Ranger gets them to 5. So they could Natural Order here, which would be an issue. So
that's true.
Yeah, so we did give them a theoretical out there.
Yep. But now this Wasteland's incredible, obviously. Like, yeah, no, I guess I exposed myself to them drawing exactly another Cradle that turn. And this Urza could not get Pirate Spellbomb fast enough, in my opinion. Because I just want to kill the Heritage Druid with Pirate Spellbomb, because I think that, like, pretty much locks the game up, right?
Yeah, although it is funny as well that playing that Grove on 1, which we never tap for colored mana, meant that now if we want to make a construct, we have to tap it again, and we don't have the red immediately for the Spellbomb. So just another, like, small optimization thing there.
Yeah, you're right. They did have the mana for no if they drew exactly a second Gaia's Cradle that turn, Lawrence.
Oh, though I guess actually with the Tabernacle we have to pay to keep our construct anyway,
Yep.
So yeah, never mind.
I mean, Tabernacle plus Construct is not the most ideal combo. I will give you that. Five. Get into the damage first, then Spell Bomb, and then Ghost Quarter. Actually, you probably shouldn't even Ghost Quarter, right? Like,
no, because it puts you down on mana, which is kind of an issue actually under the Sphere.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'd rather just loam here actually.
Well, you can't loam.
Oh no, we just tapped our thing. Yep.
So
This is
I
fine.
actually wonder if it is correct for me to keep this construct. That's what I thought about. I thought I was going to kill them with beatdowns, but I'm not even sure that like that is what my endgame should have been, right?
Yeah, it's going to take a while, and if you start aggressively just wasting them down, eventually you can use Saga to make some finishes.
Yeah, I'll be at like 7 or something, but that doesn't really matter, right? They're not a burn deck. Yeah, I kind of think probably I should have just gone that route, but you know.
Yeah. Also, if you you get loam online, the moment you dredge into a stage, suddenly they're on a much faster clock.
That's true. Although in these situations, I would probably just cast loam once and take a bunch of blind draw steps, because drawing exploration would be so much better than dredging trying to dredge into the stage, because also crop rotations in out as well. I think generally in those situations you're actually not supposed to, dredge.
Yeah, I guess Blast Zone as well would be a good thing to flip over.
Yeah. Fortunately, I'm a sack and just draw a land anyways, so I just get to have all my cake. And now I think they're kind of in the hurt locker. Alright, so I'm just going to speed through this because I think you pointed out the mistakes that have been made. That does matter. The endurance my loam, that doesn't actually matter because I have another loam in hand. And now, yeah, they're about to have literal nothing. And yeah. And you can see that I think this matchup, generally speaking, is quite good, even though you don't have Glacial Chasm in your deck, but I don't think you even need Glacial Chasm versus them, you know?
Yeah, and I don't know which other matchups you would even want that in. I guess, like, exactly Hogak maybe, but that deck doesn't really exist anymore. Or it might be weirdly good against the some of the 3-color Saga decks that don't have Wasteland, but...
Yeah, but I think you're be good versus them. Anyways, so round 7, Trios. You know who this is.
Yuki Ishikawa. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm snap keeping this hand because I just assume he's on blue red, and I'm just going to do the same thing I do in almost all these matchups, which is try to kill them with Merit Wage in game 1 because it's like super safe, right? Kind of interesting how you're exactly supposed to play this hand, I think. Oh, he's AFK for a while as well. So I went Yavimaya, Maze, Go, because I don't want to expose either of these. And if the Yavimaya doesn't get wasted, then I can just play all these out without playing a Mox anyways. So.
Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting, I think, because in theory, let's say the Yavimaya gets wasted. Now we're actually pretty far from developing anything towards stage deaths. But then... So I wonder if maybe you're meant to, like, try and set that up off Diamond instead somehow?
Yeah, I don't know.
Just, like, Diamond away the Yavimaya and the Mazaveth potentially and resolve the exploration, but...
Yep, one spell, 2020 on turn 2.
As it is.
Great
yeah,
deck.
this is fine.
Great deck. Everything's great. If they borrow me, whatever. I'll just maze their freaking Ragavan and carry on.
Yeah, Tristan, are you learning a lot here?
I mean, I think he's learning that playing the combo version makes the deck a lot easier to play, right? Instead of all these maniacs who play 3 Dark Depths. And I know you agree with me because we've had this discussion so many times. My Cradle? Oh, you mean Yavimaya Cradle of Growth. When people say Cradle, that's not the card I think of. So I like cutting Expedition Map versus these decks because I think it's really slow and clunky. But I could also see a case where it's like just one of the best cards to get with Saga versus them.
The what, sorry?
The Expedition Map.
I like the map, actually. I think there are enough games where being able to get, like, Wasteland or Tabernacle or whatever on demand, or even Saga in longer games, yeah, okay, I think that's worth it.
Well, okay. Then looking at this deck, what would you cut? Would you cut Rashad Port then? That taps for mana.
Yeah, I mean, the port can be nice sometimes.
You can't cut Karakis.
This is the question, right?
Yeah, that's why I cut map, but I still need to cut another card besides that. I actually decide the third Endurance on the draw is like not even... I kind of hate Endurance versus them because sometimes it's really good and sometimes it really just doesn't do anything. It's kind of a volatile plan, is how I would put it.
I think in general, like, 3-mana cards on the draw in general against Delver are just a little suspect. Maybe lesser in lands than in any other deck, but even here still, right? Like you were saying, the issue with Choke, yeah, it's less effective now because of Ragavan, but also it's just a 3-mana card that gets dazed.
Agreed. Anyways, this hand's pretty good for a 6-card hand, obviously. I'm pretty happy with this. And we'll see what happens. Alright, so they went Ragavan, I P-fired it. they actually surgical my loam in response to my wasteland in response to life from the loam. That's pretty interesting. Because I think that means that it's really hard for me to get around Caracas for a fast stage step.
Yeah, you have Port and Ghost Quarter, right? For games going longer.
Yeah, but the port costs a lot of mana to use that because you essentially attach 2 more mana to it. Ghost Quarter is obviously a fine answer. I think I get beaten down a lot this game, and not much.
Oh yeah, that would not surprise me.
So I have the stage, I have my own Caracas, but that doesn't really do it. And yeah, I'm dead.
Yeah, Punching Fight is so much more awkward now when one of their one-drop threats just is a 3/3 a lot of the time.
So I think on the play I decide that third endurance is worth it, maybe?
On the other hand, on the play, you can take more aggressive lines with, map for specific lands, I think. So it still goes both ways. Also, I don't know if drawing several copies of Endurance is even something you really want. And also, I don't know. I have enough respect for the Delver deck that a weak hand that has an Endurance, like that's not going to bail you out. That's not going to be good enough. Whereas I think the map more often is going to like tie the room together.
I end up cutting a 4th Saga here, and now that I look at this more, I kind of hate it.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah. I think basically I should be planning to leave in all of my Sagas, even though they are sometimes awkward. Basically in just every matchup. So we're both on 6 cards. Let me look at my 7. Oh yeah, that's not really good. Like, this doesn't do anything. I think on 6, this is actually a keep. But it does look crazy, right?
So what are you actually putting back?
Second maze, probably.
I mean, I might put back Explorations. Where does that sound?
Oh, that also makes sense. I think
Or
it's
Fire? That'd be Fire.
there's a lot of good options.
I'm pretty sure it's Fire, actually, because the thing is, you have the Spell Bomb, which is a theoretical answer to the same kinds of stuff as Fire is. You also have 2 mazes, which covers most of the ground creatures. And if you do draw a green source, then you can just pop off with the Exploration, potentially. So, I don't know. It's tricky.
Would you have played the Pirate Spellbomb on turn 1?
I would have, yeah.
I should have. I think right after I did that, I realized it was a mistake not to.
I think you're very likely to just want to cycle it this game, so
Yep.
You want to shave a mana off that.
I think I hate playing the Saga on this turn in retrospect.
Because then one wasteland effectively hits 2 lands.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This was really bad, I think.
I mean, if you think that your hand is pretty bad, you're going to need to get someone fortunate to win, then maybe. But it's also like on 6, they didn't do anything. What could their hand really have, right?
Yeah. Yep, endurance. Yep. I guess the one saving grace of this is Mox is actually a fine draw.
The one saving grace is you are a giant luck sack, Jarvis, and
I know.
you get bailed out.
I think they actually force it here, and I think that makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's still nice to just, hem them.
Mox, I'm 0 mana him to Turok. Yeah. So, yep, they force it. And I just, I should play them. I think I should play the maze, actually. Like, think about it. If they have Wasteland again, you definitely don't want them wasting the Yavimaya. That's like probably going to end the game.
And yeah, as Tristan points out, this is a great spot for Foundry, potentially.
Yeah, this is the spot where Foundry would be good. I just conclude that their hands must be extremely reactive, right?
Could also be a Murktide that they're a long way away from casting.
Yep. Well, we get a Mox Diamond. We discard Maze, and we play Yavimaya, and I think I just main phase Endurance because you can play around Days this way.
Absolutely.
Tapping that Maze is super loose. I should just leave up the Maze, like... Alright. So now we have a 3-4, and they haven't like done anything. So what's on the docket? Yep. Makes sense for them to have it. Because they
The
wastelanded a
best
turn.
card in Legacy, Jarvis.
I mean, it's pretty good, yeah. I guess it depends on who you ask. I mean, my vote is Brainstorm's actually the best card in Legacy still, but, you know. Alright, so how long does this on? Oh, another iteration on the following turn.
I think my hot take is that Saga is actually the best card, but there's not really a good Saga deck yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's a few decks that are close, I think. When you say good Saga deck, I assume you mean one that's like super optimized for it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that channel art came from their iteration.
Someone posted a Legacy KCI list,
I saw
and I
that.
realized that aside from Saga, I actually own all of the cards for that, basically. So I might just build that to have a Legacy deck, and it also looks pretty fun. So,
anyways, get to crop rotation here. They probably have a force, but that's fine. Like, again, it's a 2-for-2. This is why I like leaving rotation, because it makes these spots really awkward for them. And now I think I P-fire in response, because, like, no, they would have just surveilled into exactly creature, right? But they didn't, so now I should just untap and P-fire it and play around days? I mean, I think...
yeah.
I think it's unlikely they have days in their deck, but it also doesn't cost me much to do this, right? Painter uses Saga the best? I could see that. Huh, I don't even P-fire. Why did I not P-fire? Trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I would think either you go for P-Fire, and then
Yep.
if it becomes a 3/3, you can just hold back Endurance and force them to attack into it.
Yeah, I should have P-fired on my turn then.
And P5 before combat, right?
Yep.
In that case? Yeah.
Yep. This is kind of cool for them because they get to reset one bad card off of their second Brainstorm.
Yeah.
Speed it up.
Yeah, I do need to be out of here before too long, but if we can speed through the rest and cover the relevant stuff.
Yep. Should have just like sped some of this up. Alright, they hit a Reb, that doesn't do anything. I'm kind of terrified of Murktide, but they used 2 bolts to kill my thing. And I'm like, alright, that's fine. Now I think they're mostly on empty. They need a Murktide here. I am drawing pretty live to... that's like... That doesn't actually matter, I think. But, spoiler, I drew depths. So now they're on a 1-turn window to draw something. Or a 2-turn window, right? Because they can block with Delver.
How are you so good at this, Jarvis?
Well, I play 4 Dark Depths, you see.
That does help.
I'm gonna just keep saying that until people listen to me. So, won that match. So now we're 6-1, which is pretty nice. And
They hated Jarvis because he told them the truth.
Alright, so round 8 versus Max Magicer. I think they often play like blue piles, right? So like,
yes,
this is not the most insane hand, but I don't think you can ever mulligan this hand versus like a blue pile.
Yep.
It can go a lot of different directions. The question is, which direction do you want to take? Alright. So I play Mox discarding Grove. The reason for that. Oh, the reason is I want to get a basic, I think, with this thing. So let's Speed it up. They have a Ragavan on one. Classic Rags. Exploration's a really good draw, actually. It's like I kind of just get to have everything. If they force Exploration, I just play Maze, obviously. I guess I'm playing Maze almost no matter what. So. Alright, they force the pitching Standstill. I'm like, okay, if they have Standstill in their deck, that like actually is better for me if they draw all of the dead Standstills.
Yeah, so this tells you they're on almost like an old school Saga deck at this point, right?
Right. And I'm just gonna crop rotate here. Again, like, I think this is why I like the card so much. If they daze it, so what? Like, they've used a Wasteland as well, so this is kind of a card neutral exchange for me, right?
Yeah. Usually the standstill decks are Jeskai colored, right? So you have to be somewhat cognizant of like Source of Plowshares and so on. But...
and they also have Stifle, or I think they often do have Stifle. So you have to be careful about activating Expedition Map into Stifle, which is another reason to remove it in this matchup. All right.
I think maybe the 3-depth thing is more that just like it's so hard to find space. Even in it is weird, right? You have a mana base that has 30-something lands, and it's difficult to find enough room. But that is true with how the deck is built.
So I actually did main phase activate it because it would force them to use their treasure to stifle, right? And they're always going to leave that treasure up. You might as well just deny the treasure.
Yeah, worth running over the stifle versus stage depth interaction.
Sure. I'll say you need to stifle the copy because if you try to stifle the actual make a Merit Lage trigger, it'll just re-trigger. That's the short answer.
Yeah, the way it's worded is when it has no counters on it, which is always going to be true. So you stifle it once, and then
it just
the stack clears, and it checks again, sees it has no counters, and the trigger goes back on the stack. So
they actually go after my Mox here. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Oh,
yeah, probably not finding any other use for that card, right?
Yeah.
So
probably not. Oh, I think they get to play my VE here, and I'm like pretty not thrilled about this.
Just classic Ragavans.
And I drew crop rotation and just main phased it. Because, like, again, this is the oh shit, I'm like mostly dead play, right? You might as well just see if they're dead. Ragavan's fine.
It's going to be this. Yeah. And okay.
And I would like to note, this sort of peeves me when people do this. Just don't salt in the chat, please. Like, why? What do you gain by salting in the chat?
Yeah, that this person is a known salter.
They could just type nothing, or they could just like throw a ball IRL against the wall. Like, find a more productive way to do this shit, please. First Jeskai, let's see. I don't really like Endurance versus this build of the deck, if that makes sense. I don't think it really does thing. And I do like Force of Vigor.
Okay, just to hit Sagas, to hit...
Yeah.
I think I kind of like Crucible, too. If it's going to be like a Wasteland Saga fight on both sides.
Type in
like
Notepad. Yeah.
I actually like it. I don't know about Force of Vigor is the thing, because it hits exactly Saga, but you're spending 2 cards to do that, and it's the only real target in their deck for the most part. So,
oh man, I in retrospect, if I knew how their deck was built, I would not have these in turn. Then I think it's just like really not that good. I'm also I'm eyeing these VEs too. Like, they're not that great either.
I think with this setup, you're going to have a lot of pretty clunky draws where you just have like random lands that don't really work well together, and an endurance that's just a 3/4 for 3, and you know, you draw a Force of Vigor on your mulligan to 6. It's just it's easy for the deck to not feel cohesive at that point.
So you would have liked to have a Crucible in over like one of...
Oh, you go down to 1 depth as well. Interesting.
I don't like it versus the white versions. I think, like, especially if they have Wasteland and Caracas and Swords to Plowshares, it's like a lot to ask for, you know?
Yeah, I hear you.
So this is like, I don't know, it's like borderline again, I think.
Yeah, I'm not excited about it, but I don't know if you can
I,
mull.
my suspicion is keep and likely lose, but it's a keep. So now I think I should just I didn't want to run the Mox into Daze because I think that's an easy way to lose. And I think Port is my worst land.
I kind of think Grove is the worst land.
So if I hover over Wasteland, that means I'm planning to play. Okay. This also
Interesting.
makes sense. But I actually expect this to be Dazed because it saves the Ragavan for a turn. I'm not sure if that's like actually good enough, but that's like a good exchange for me. Yeah, they daze it, so I fetch, obviously. So I'm actually like feeling kind of good about this game by this point, right?
Off to a decent start at least, yeah. Like we're not really doing anything at the moment, but we have our draw can go places in a lot of different ways.
So they ended up ending the Pirates bubble on their turn, which is kind of a bummer because I would have liked to just use it on that.
Yeah. The other issue is the way we developed our lands here, we drew a third land that we ideally would want to cast this turn or play this turn.
And this is like weirdly kind of bad for me that this is basically just a pithing needle for Maze of Fifth, right?
Yes. So there's no way to get around that with stage, right? Because it
No.
assumes the same name.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And it looks like this Mock Simon's actually really good for them, if I recall correctly. But I don't remember. Oh, it was really good for them.
oh yikes. Yeah. I mean, you have stuff here, right?
Yep. So I can stage their Saga as well. Remember that. That's like an interaction that actually comes up pretty often. But I think I want to just try to block this turn, obviously, right?
Agreed.
Just speed through a little bit. Oh, the block works. What happens for me to lose this one then?
Do you just lose to the Saga? Like they draw a wasteland or something?
Oh, that definitely could be it. So again, we're in the same situation. If they do this here, it forces them to have Stifle for the copy. Oh, you know what happens? These
So they
constructs...
just needle. Or
Yeah, I think they get Needle, or the constructs are too big, too fast. Is the other possibility. No, it's a Needle.
oh, that too. Yeah, so them
that's-
them hitting the Mark Simon there was just so
Yep.
brutal for you.
I mean, happens. Obviously, I
Yeah.
have 4 Mock Simons in my deck. So now I'm like kind of in the shitter because like there's like not even a lot of very good backdoor outs.
Yeah, this is where you really would want to have more depths, I think. I mean, it's easy to say with how that game played out, but I wonder if Red Blast is actually what you want here.
It's still for Regent, I think. I mean, obviously, I don't know for sure that they have Regent. I think I should just take these, like, maybe shaved 1 Endurance from my deck. I don't know. All right, this is a pretty ideal hand.
Yeah, I mean, this... So we lose this game too, huh?
Yeah, spoiler. I mean, you'll see why in a second.
Oh, do we get Alpine Moon?
Well, first that happens, which is not great. But
yeah.
I'm always playing that way into the thing because I just think it's actually correct to do so, you know? Because for all of the times where they don't have ending for my mocks, I just like put them under the gun with 2 constructs immediately, right? Yep. And now my hand's quite bad, which is the problem. And I have to actually dredge to look for something better, you know?
Yeah, this is so rough.
I mean, I was never going to mulligan that hand, obviously. But my hand, like, kind of is not very good anymore.
Yeah, I guess once you know they have Alpine Moon, then Force of Vigor becomes a little more appealing. But even then,
But I also believe that most of the decks only play 1. But it's just, I think Force of Vigor is good to kill, like, a Saga and a Construct or whatever, you know? Also, Tristan was asking before if most Delver players leave in days. This player did. I don't know if it's correct or not, but it depends a lot on their deck construction, to my suspicion. And look, there's the Murktide. So this is going downhill very quickly. In fact, it has gone downhill basically.
Oh, it's over, yeah.
I mean, I need to draw a blast, but, you know, because that's like the only card that's fast enough. Hold Mox back a turn? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, maybe
that's a thought. Yeah.
That's what I should have done. Yeah. No, I think that's right. But now I'm just blue. Someone posted it. I don't remember who.
Yeah, it just one of our friends posted in a Discord. I don't know if they were taking it very seriously, or it was just, one of those ideas, but
All right. So, 6-2, a fine finish. 6-3 in the Legacy Pit, so it's total 12-5. A bunch of other people had good weekends for the deck. I honestly think the deck is fine, or like even better than fine. It's a little bit metagame dependent, I think, more so nowadays. But
yeah, it did seem like there was a surprising amount of combo in the showcase, but none of it did that well. It was like top 8 was 6 blue-red decks, Elves, and Reanimator, I believe.
Yeah, it's really funny. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I probably should have sandbagged the Mox because, well, no, I had Punching Fire in my hand, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, then I think that's just like kind of nonsense. But before we go, first we have to open chests for the lovely people who sub. So we got 4.
I should duck out. I really have to start recording. But...
All right. Sorry to make you run late, but thank you for being here. I will open chests for the chat, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for being here, friend.
Bye, everyone.
All right. We got a Vorpal Sword, 5 play points, and Govern the Guildless. All right. Number 2. Ooh, Bosri? Is that worth anything? Any Bosris? And a Garrick Sword, which is not worth anything. Sad. Is what it is. No price found? Interesting. It's also Devoted Paladin. I think that's the one from like the pre-con. Alright, chest number 3. Let's see what we got. Oh, that's also not worth anything. Sag. 2 cents. Nice. You hate to see it. In my case, you actually do hate to see that it's only worth 2 cents. Alright. Last chest, chat. Unless more people want to sub. Happy September and all. Ooh. This used to be worth a lot, not anymore. That's not worth anything. So a few things I want to announce still. I've started, I opened a Metafy page, which is a coaching service. If you want the details of that, type !coaching or Google Jarvis U Metafy. You can find it. If you also want to support the stream, hit that follow button. That's free to do. And gifted subs and new subs are 20% off this month. So, Ooh, Unbanned Mental Misstep gifted a sub, so I guess I have to open one more as well. Alright, 35 play points is above expectation, and Path of Bravery, not so good, but we'll take what we get. No. And Sense Fog. Alright, so let's see. Again, thanks for being here. Let's see who else is streaming. Yo, what is this? Schultz Cube! 5 gifted subs! Welcome back. Welcome back, Schultz Cube. We'll open the chest real quick for Schultz Cube gifting 5 subs. Let's see what's in number 1. Drown in the Lock. Whoa, what is this Drown in the Lock? I've been playing a lot of lands lately, Tim. Mostly because I think it's decent right now. This is still worth nothing. Shit. 1. It's from a secret lair, apparently. It's not apparently also not worth anything. Oh, Thespian stage. How on brand today, right? Amid rumors of war, the 3rd act of the Absolution of the Guild Pact was quickly rewritten as a tragedy. Wow, I love that flavor text. Alright. That was number 2. Number 3. These cards all suck. This card was actually just like garbage and betrayers. 5 hit points is not throwing either. Alright, number 4. Let's see what we got. Grind to Dust. Pretty good card in draft. And Gutter Bones. Fine card in draft. And we got one more to open, chat. Let's see what it is. SRAM's Expertise and 35 play points. Alright, cool. Well, Ink Eyes was kind of chase. And the shoals were fine. But besides that, you're mostly correct. It was mostly garbage. No, top was from Champions of Kamigawa. Urza was also from Champions of Kamigawa. Gifts Ungiven also from Champions of Kamigawa. Pithing Needle from Saviors and Kagamaru from Saviors. Anyways, let's see who's doing things that are maybe Legacy adjacent. Legacy. I'll probably be back Thursday, chat, and maybe Friday. I'm not sure yet. Let's see. Plus, nice support. Alright, Mana Symbol is playing Jeskai Phoenix, so we're going to support Mana Symbol, so stick around for the raid. And, thanks for being here. So, I'll play something on Thursday, I'm not sure what. Probably... I don't know. I'll figure it out on Thursday, so see you all then. Thanks for being here again.